Good evening, fellow chartered accountants. Am I audible?
Yes, very much. Please go ahead.
Good evening, fellow chartered accountants. I am Sri Arun Bhalla, your moderator for the day. I am thrilled to welcome you all attendees who took time out of their busy schedule to attend this very informative and insightful webinar on the topic Impact of Technology in the Finance Domain. As a chartered accountant, we are at the forefront of financial integrity and transparency. Technology, however, is rapidly reshaping the financial landscape, demanding constant adaptation and revaluation of our practice. Today, we shall embark on a journey to explore how technology is influencing nearly every aspect of our profession. I'll name a few. Automation, such as AI and robotics, data analytics. Big data is now been, uh, done in very small time. Blockchain, cloud computing, cyber security, rise of fintech, which is disrupting the traditional finance service, offering innovative solution for individual and businesses. We will explore technology, their potential impact on our future as a chartered accountant. Now, I welcome CA Nanda sir, a man serving the profession since 1991. Presently, he is a chairman of Digital Accounting and Insurance Board (ICAI), Committee on Financial Market and Investor Protection, Committee on Information Technology of South Asian Federation of Accountants (SAFA), and he is also vice chairman of Board of Internal Audit and Management Accounting. He's been in Central Council's member since 2014 to 16 and 19 to 22. You name a committee under ICAI, he is or was or else has headed that committee, such as Internal Audit Standard Boards, Research Committee, Public Relation Committee, Women Member Empowerment Committee, Committee on Cooperative and NPO Sector, Public Finance and Government Accounting Committee, Committee Committee of Social Responsible Committee, Corporate Social Responsible Committee. He has contributed as a guest speaker at Vancouver, British Columbia, chapter of ICAI on IFRS, Effective Communication and Forensic Accounting Seminar, acted as a faculty and program coordinator at various seminars and conferences organized by international bodies such as our NIRC, WIRC, CIRC, EIRC, SIRC branches, and even study circle of NIRC. He has made several presentation and chaired sessions on overview of proposed GST regime in India and its comparative analysis, overview of Ind AS 12 income tax, Ind AS 18 revenue, international conference at Kathmandu on WTO and trade laws, presentation before various government bodies, effectiveness of CA to act as an independent director, proceeding before disciplinary committee, and many more. Now I hand over the mic to Mr. Nanda sir, and I welcome him on this very important and very required webinar.
Thanks a lot for your kind words, CA Arun Bhalla, the moderator of today's session. Two of the revered speakers, CA Udit Agarwal and Shri Sanjeev Arora. We also have Amit Gupta, the secretary of the board, technical support from Mayaz, and all members who have come here to go home more on action. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with yet another exciting webinar on how technology can change the entire ecosystem of your life. Today, we shall discuss the impact technology makes on finance function. I want to very candidly put across that we chartered accountants need to know how technology will change our thought process. We have embarked upon a very ambitious project, a very glamorous project, technology for non-technology professionals. You all are aware that certain chartered accountants are very senior and they are not much abreast with technology. So we have come out with 3-day virtual program wherein any person who's not abreast with the latest technology can use it for furtherance of his business endeavors. Going ahead, ladies and gentlemen, technology benefits us by 3 ways. Number 1, technology has made the simple error system totally obsolete. Total data is analyzed. There is no question of samples. Number 2, and very importantly, the work is finished on time. Computers don't have wives. Number 3, and most important thing, that there is no element of error when the work is done through technology. Ladies and gentlemen, finance function, lot of monotonous activities are there which could be taken by technology. Going ahead, now we are doing lot of work and research on artificial intelligence and ChatGPT. Ladies and gentlemen, we at the board are very keen to ensure that all of you get involved into the technology initiatives which the board is taking to ensure that you very rightfully serve not only your clients or stakeholders, but government and regulators as well. I will not speak much, but I would like to just say one thing, that technology means technology. At times we are confused. There is a couplet which says, तमाम के तमाम शहर बसा के सुकून के लिए गांव ढूंढते हैं, तमाम के तमाम शहर बसाकर सुकून के लिए गांव ढूंढते हैं, कितने नादान हैं हम, हाथ में कुल्हाड़ी लेकर छांव ढूंढते हैं. My dear friends, if you want to learn technology, get absorbed into it, get involved into it, and the board will assist you. Every Friday we have a program, and every alternative Friday we have a program with all 7 SAFA countries, including Pakistan, including Nepal, including Bangladesh, Maldives, Afghanistan, Bhutan. So, my dear friends, time has come when you embrace technology, use it to add value to your initiatives, and more importantly, bring your professional ideas to you. I will not stand between you and Udit Agarwal, a very young, dynamic chartered accountant who has understood technology and has implemented it to create value and worth in his professional endeavors. I give back the dais to CM Arun Bhalla, the moderator of the day. Mr. Bhalla, the dais is all yours now. Thank you.
Now, coming back to our topic, this webinar has been designed to equip you with the knowledge and tools necessary to thrive in the technology-driven financial world. We will hear from industry experts who will share their insight on how technology is changing the work culture, the skill and competence needed to remain competitive in the rapidly evolving market, practical strategies for integrating technology into your practice and enhancing client value, the ethical consideration and regulatory landscape surrounding technology adoption in the financial sector. For this, we have 2 speakers, CA Udit Agarwal and she's Sanjeev Arora ji. First, I'll speak about Udit Agarwal ji, a chartered accountant and a commerce graduate from Delhi University, working as a consultant and primarily focusing on advising on operational finance and strategic finance across India and Africa. And I'll tell you something about Sanjeev Arora ji also. Sanjeev Arora ji, former president and director of ISACA New Delhi chapter, a veteran of 30 plus years of experience in cyber risk, audit, software development, and its operation. Fellow chartered accountants, let's unlock the potential of our knowledge and skills, taking the help of tool named technology, and embrace the exciting opportunity it presents for our profession to shape the future. We will also ample time for your question at the end of the webinar. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our institute for their support in making this webinar possible. Without ado, let's dive into the fascinating world of technology and its impact on finance domain. I am excited to hear from our speakers and learn alongside you. Let's journey together, rise to the challenge. I'll request Udit ji to please take over.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction and the words of wisdom, Nanda sir. We will be addressing some of these technological aspects in today's session. Also, thank you so much, Arun sir, for the kind introduction. And I'll now start with my presentation for the day. I'll present my screen. Would just request you to confirm once it's visible.
Yeah, it is
the
visible.
slide.
Yes, Udit ji, very much visible. Please go ahead.
All right. Okay. Thank you, sir. So our topic for today is impact of technology in the finance domain. So we need to understand, that we are living in an age of continuous change, and the evolving technology is impacting us and touching our lives at every single point. We don't even realize but technology is impacting us in a lot of ways. Today, we see that the computer travels with us everywhere in our pockets. We can do online shopping with the touch of a button and even receive the goods within a couple of hours. We wear devices, that measure the number of steps that we have walked in a day. So some of these things we realize that were not there 10 or 12 years back. So we need to understand and appreciate that technology is not only evolving, but it is evolving at a very, very fast pace. And we need to keep up with the evolving technology. I think my screen is not.
Yeah, it's not coming. Yeah, it's now visible.
Okay.
Yeah, it's visible, Uditji.
The presentation is visible, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So as I said, we need to understand and appreciate that technology is not only evolving, but it is evolving at a very fast pace. And as Nanda sir mentioned in his opening remarks, there are three important things: that total data is being analyzed today, work is getting finished on time, and there are no errors in work. This is what technology has given us over the years. And we need to be be careful that we need to be agile enough and adapt to the changing environment as quickly as possible. So therefore, our topic for today is impact of technology in the finance domain. And in this session, I would like to talk about how the finance domain is changing, how technology is helping the finance domain in our everyday lives as finance professionals. I'll quickly show the agenda for today's session. So we'll start with discussing the technologies and tools which are being used in the finance function. There are, as we know, there are a lot of technologies available in the market. There are a whole lot of tools which are there in the market, which will be used in the finance function. Then we'll go on to discuss the benefits of such automation. We will then discuss the challenges which we are facing and the caution to be exercised. So the one thing with technology is that we cannot just implement technology. There are challenges to implementation of technology, and we have to take requisite safeguards. We have to take the cautions necessary. Then we will look at a section which I have called "What Next," where we will observe what the future looks like when we talk about things such as artificial intelligence. We talk about generative artificial intelligence, which is the latest chat GPT and all, how that affects the finance function. And at the end of the session, I'll take up the questions and answers. So now I'll start off, I'll show my slide where I've talked about the technologies and tools which are used in the finance function. So we have something called as a basic accounting system, using which we were able to do our basic accounting. We've got enterprise resource planning systems, which is a much more advanced software. Then we've got various tools to do data analytics. We've got tools such as optical character recognition, facial recognition, speech recognition, and something known as natural language processing. Some of these we are, as I mentioned in my earlier remarks, some of these we are also using in our everyday lives. Then a very interesting another tools which have come up are something known as chatbots and AI assistants, which are really being used in the finance function these days. And in the last, I'll talk about generative AI, as I mentioned earlier. So now I will like to start off by saying, by just making a small comparison of seeing what we were earlier and what we are today. There was a time when there were an accounts department used to be comprising of hundreds of finance personnel, and who used to be handling hundreds and thousands of sheets of paper. But that has got reduced to a handful with the advent of technology. We can also recall days when bank branches used to be flooded with accounting personnel, not only with accounting personnel but with customers as well. But now when we visit a bank branch, we see very few accounting personnel, and we see even fewer customers. Why? Because customers are now getting used to using mobile applications, online banking, internet banking, through which you can do something as simple as making a fixed deposit return, or as simple as making an investment. So no one is today interested in visiting a bank branch when things can be done sitting at home. That is where technology has taken us. This has resulted in greater accuracy, data dissection, speed of accounting, and financial results being available on a real-time basis. And the only reason I say all of this is to drive home the point that how technology has changed the finance function from being human-centric to its reliance on machine and technology. Now I would like to start my discussion about about and giving an overview about the enterprise resource planning software, which lies at the heart of the finance function. Not only the finance function of an entire organization, I would say it lies at the heart of the entire business. So, what we'll start by looking at what an ERP basically is. We earlier had the most basic of softwares, using which we could, just post accounting entries into the systems. But now we've moved to more sophisticated ERP softwares, which not only do the basic accounting, but which also provide assistance in the process flows of the organization. Let us start by understanding what an ERP is and what all it can do for us. An ERP is a software system which is used by an organization for the integrated management of its key business processes. It provides the automation, the integration, and the intelligence to efficiently run business operations. Now, what does this mean? An ERP is a package which gives us access to a variety of modules. I'll quickly just move to the next slide and then come back to this one. So I've listed some of the modules in this diagrammatic presentation here on this slide. So an ERP can have all these modules. It can have a financial management module, it can have a supply chain module, an R&D module, a customer relationship management module, a human resource management module, etc. So it can have a whole plethora of different modules, and that is why coming back to the previous slide, we say that it is an integrated management of key business processes, because whatever is there on one module of the ERP, that is only what is used by the other parts of the ERP. All the modules are interconnected with each other. If if the ERP crashes, the entire decision making of an organization would come to a halt, because all the data based on which the decisions are to be taken are there on the ERP. And that is why I mentioned in my opening remarks that an ERP is something which acts like a backbone of the entire organization. This brings us to our next point, that an ERP is the source of all the critical information, and it is the single source of truth. What we mean by the single source of truth is that all the data should reside on the ERP. This does not mean that we don't have other systems. What it means is that even if we have other systems, the data from the other systems should be integrated into the ERP. It is possible that an organization may be using some other legacy systems, and in such cases, it is best that we build some sort of an integration so that data can seamlessly flow into the ERP. These days, we have tools such as MuleSoft, and we have other API related tools, which can easily talk amongst the systems. The two systems can communicate with each other using APIs, and the data from the legacy systems can be brought into the ERP. And this is what I've brought forth in my fourth point, that an ERP is something whereby we can, seamlessly integrate. See, there can be seamless integration with any other legacy systems if required. So as we've seen till now, an ERP is a software which gives a business complete control. It has all sorts of data, and it can give you many different insights if used properly. ERPs these days have become so versatile, that they support in importing information from third-party service providers also. Taking a small example here, since we are accountants, we all know that we require foreign currency rates in the system to convert foreign currency transactions into local currency, and also to book unrealized gains and losses at the month end or at the year end. Earlier, what used to happen was that finance professionals used to perform this exercise manually, whereby number one, the finance personnel would look for an exchange rate through the internet, and then what would happen is the second step would be to manually do the calculations on a spreadsheet. So you would have all the list of accounts there which need to be revalued, and then you would apply the correct rate of exchange rate and then prepare the calculation that okay, this is the unrealized gain or loss that needs to be booked. And the last step would be then to punch that data into the system to post the entry. Now, what have ERPs done? ERPs have the functionality to import foreign currency rates from a third-party portal at defined intervals. So what will happen is that you will link the ERP to a third-party portal, and at some point during the day, from the third-party portal, the rate would come into the ERP. So the finance professional no longer needs to manually search for the rate. The chart of accounts defines the various accounts which need to be revalued. When we run the foreign exchange revaluation module, automatically those accounts would get revalued at the rate defined for that particular day. And the system would also automatically park the entry in the system. So the job of the finance professional is now to keep a control. He or she would need to check that the foreign exchange revaluation has occurred at the correct rate, the correct accounts have been revalued, and the correct calculation has been done. The job is now to check this and to post the entry. So this is how we see that how ERPs are simplifying this life. This is example I just gave to drive that point home of how these ERPs would simplify our life going forward. Now, on the next point, I would like to briefly touch upon how ERPs play a role in the four basic accounting processes which are there. We've all heard of these processes: procure to pay, order to cash, record to report, and property, plant, and equipment. So these are the four processes which form the core of the finance function. And an ERP in multiple ways helps the finance function in performing these processes. I would like to start with how the procure to pay cycle works. So what would happen is that if any user department requires any purchase to be made, a purchase requisition needs to be raised through the ERP again. So a purchase requisition would be raised by the user department. It would ultimately go through the requisite approval, and it would reach the procurement department. The procurement department would then check the purchase requisition. It will select the vendor from the database. The vendor database also lies in the ERP, and select the particular vendor, and a purchase order would be prepared. Again, the purchase order would go through an approval, and the purchase order would be sent to the relevant vendor. The vendor will then deliver the materials at the place of the business organization. Now, the GRN activity, the receiving, would also be done through the ERP. So from the point at which a purchase requisition is made till the time a GRN is done, a single document is running through the ERP. Workflows and approvals have been built into the ERP to, so that there is seamless movement of the document from one department to the other. Also, the ERP is capable of performing the three-way match, the popular three-way match which we talk about in accounting between the purchase order, the invoice, and the goods receipt note on the ERP itself. So obviously, it would have certain logics built into the ERP using which the three-way match gets performed. So this was a small, and then obviously once the invoice has been recorded onto the system, the payment is made. And these days, as we see, the payment is also being made through online banking. So as we see, from start to end, we have technology which is doing the job with basic human intervention, instead of earlier, when the scenario which was there earlier, where humans were primarily looking at all these functions. Moving to the next cycle, order to cash, the sales process. Basically, this helps in customer database management, terms of sales, standard contractual obligations, and the order to cash. Another very interesting thing which can happen is that the ERP can send automated reminders, for customers to make payments. Even balance confirmations can be sent. So that ERP is linked to a central mailbox, and at a particular set time, whatever that time is, the ERP can throw, say, hundreds or thousands of balance confirmations to customers and vendors. So earlier, finance professionals used to spend a whole lot of time making these confirmations and sending them out. Now it's just become a small job of just pressing a button, and these balance confirmations go out through the system. These balance confirmations can also have agings extracted from the system and all of that. So life has become much easier. Then coming to the next process, which is record to report. And this is another very interesting process. And there is a plethora of things that ERPs can do in simplifying the cycle of record to report. So whenever we talk about the RTR cycle, it reminds us of the month-end close activities. So technology has made it possible to extract the financial results of an organization at any given point. So, and some organizations are even looking at touchless close these days. What a touchless close means, as the word suggests, an organization shall be able to close its books with minimal human intervention. So that is how the future of finance looks like. If an organization is planning a month-end close, most of the stuff would be done by the ERP, and only very limited stuff would be with the finance personnel, which requires very subjective judgments to be made. That is what we are looking at. And there are a lot of things in the record to report cycle. For example, let us say, taking an example of a transaction between a parent company and a subsidiary company. When the parent company records its entry in its books, what happens these days in ERP is that the entry also gets recorded in the subsidiaries books using the concept of a mirror entry. So the reverse entry gets passed in the books of the subsidiary. So imagine what is happening. There are hundreds and thousands of intercompany parent subsidiary transactions which are taking place, and the ERP has the capability to automatically have that entry on the books of the subsidiary company as well. So the how much time is getting saved of the finance function through all these features. Also, taking the case of, say, a bank reconciliation statement. Earlier, what used to happen was that these bank reconciliation statements, they were prepared on spreadsheets, and accountants used to spend hours and hours making a reconciliation of each and every transaction on a bank reconciliation statement. And we are all accountants, we've seen how bank reconciliation statements work. So now what technology has done is that these days banks give you a report, and this report gets uploaded onto your ERP. What does report? You can take this from a bank on a daily basis, because generally bank statement reconciliations are done on a daily basis in organizations. And what this will do is, what this report which comes from the bank will do is that it will upload the entire bank statement on your ERP. Now, the ERP, not only does it upload the bank statement, the ERP also has certain features whereby it can, automatically reconcile the transaction. Say there is a transaction of rupees 10,000 which has occurred on on the bank statement, and there is a transaction of rupees 10,000 which is there on the bank ledger also. So the ERP has capability to automatically set off these transactions. Obviously, we will have questions that there could be multiple transactions of rupees 10,000. So how would those be handled? And that is why, as I mentioned even in the beginning, humans cannot be completely done away with ever. There will be certain subjective judgments which need to be made. There would be certain decisions which would need to be taken, and that would require human intervention. But the crux of the entire matter is that using these tools, we have been able to run our operations efficiently. We have been able to cut out a lot of time which was being used earlier in some very routine activities, and we have a lot more time to spend on analyzing data and making subjective judgments. And then coming to the last cycle, property, plant and equipment, ERPs have controls over requisition, over capitalization. There is automated computation of depreciation. They also assist in the statutory requirements, such as preparation of the fixed assets register, physical verification of fixed assets, etc. So having said all of this, it all these things on may sound very rosy, but to reiterate the fact again that there have to be robust checks and balances that need to be built in the system. There are a lot of precautions which need to be taken so that uh, and so that there is no misuse of the ERP. And some of these precautions I will be covering in one of my subsequent slides. Now, moving to my next point, this is again, these last 2 points are very critical. ERPs are available for organizations of all sizes, whether it is a small company, whether it is a medium company, whether it is a large company, and also with industry specifications. So as I had shown you that there are various modules on an ERP, and every organization can decide which particular module does it want to use going forward. And depending on those, you can have these customizations built into the system. Also, industries may have specific requirements. They may need some specific things which a standard ERP functionality may not give. So these industry specifications and customizations can be incorporated into the ERP. It is also, as I mentioned earlier, it is not, you cannot use all the modules in an ERP in one go. You may not need them. So, but it is not that you can't come back to these modules at any point of time when you want to implement any of these modules. As the use of the ERP matures, the service providers always have an option of having these modules integrated into the system. Talking about now, I'm going to talk about another tool here, optical character recognition, which I had talked about in my previous slide. And when I was talking about customizations here, this came to my mind also. So, optical character recognition is a tool which basically it's been there for quite a while now, but it reads the characters on a piece of paper, and it can convert it into text on a computer system. Now, how would this tool be useful in the finance domain? This is being used a lot these days in the finance domain, and earlier also it was being used quite a bit. So again, taking a very simple example here, there may be an organization, which may be having hundreds of thousands of vendor invoices coming in. Now, earlier, there used to be finance personnel sitting and punching those invoices into the systems every day, and it used to take maybe hours or days to do this process of punching the thousands of invoices on a daily basis. But now what is happening is that using OCR technology, the invoice is scanned, the details, the basic details which are there on any invoice, like say a PO number, an invoice number, invoice date, the invoice amount, the tax amount, the tax registration number, GST number, etc. All these details are captured by the OCR technology. Now, only capturing the details doesn't help us, because what needs to happen is that the OCR technology is also linked with our ERP in such a manner that the entire vendor entry, the expense entry, gets recorded onto the system. So when the OCR scans the invoice, it pre-populates the fields basis the data that it has scanned, and it will spark the entry onto the ERP. So, as I mentioned earlier, the role of the finance team would now be to cross-check each of these invoices with the actual invoice and post the entry. After a while, it may not even be necessary to cross-check because the OCR would become very accurate. So there are within the OCR also there are various tools which can be used to make corrections and all. And once all those things are done, even cross-checking of invoices would get reduced to a very much extent. So I just wanted to bring up this point because we talked about optical character recognition technology earlier, and that is how the optical character recognition technology gets linked with the finance function. And imagine how much this makes our life easy. Moving to the last point, ERPs can be deployed in three ways. We can have an on-premise ERP, we can have a cloud ERP, or we can have a hybrid ERP. Most organizations historically used to deploy on-premise ERPs, and in this type of model, the software was installed on the company's own servers and systems. So there used to be the software was installed on the system in the office or wherever the company wanted the software to be involved, and this sort of a system usually entailed a big one-time cost. And primarily, the entity was responsible for ensuring the security of the data in such cases. However, as we've moved ahead, there are cloud-based deployments which have come in, whereby the system provider will have its own data center or cloud computing platform, which will host its applications and systems. So all software updates, maintenance, installation, and security becomes the responsibility of the vendor, most of it. The business is left with a very few responsibilities. And the big advantage of this is that you can use the system anywhere at your convenience. So even if you're sitting in some part of the globe, you can just log onto your laptop or onto your mobile, access the ERP and do whatever is required. What this leads to is that first of all, it leads to obviously faster delivery of services. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you can at any point of time visit the ERP and give approvals. So if an order has been received at night, there may be a finance personnel sitting at night who may just log on to the ERP and initiate delivery for that order. So the turnaround time for the delivery has reduced with with cloud-based deployments, because otherwise the order would only get initiated once the finance personnel would visit the office the next day. Now that isn't the case. It leads to non-stop product and service improvements, and of course there is greater reliability which is there. And usage of now cloud is becoming very common across all businesses, and such types of ERPs, as I mentioned earlier, also allow users to use mobile applications. Coming to mobile applications are also playing a big part in in businesses. For example, when we visit some of these stores which are selling clothes at a very large scale, when we enter the store, we see thousands of items of clothes lying at the store, and sometimes we comprehend that how would they be managing so much of inventory. But when we ask a store personnel for one of our favorite pieces which we want to buy, so what they'll do is that they'll open their mobile application, they'll quickly scan the barcode, and they'll be able to tell you, okay, that this color is available, this size is available, this color may not be available, or you can find it at this other store, you'll find this piece. So how does all this happen? In the entire inventory module is there on the mobile application, and it's real-time data. It cannot be old data, because the shopkeeper is telling you at that point of time, okay, that this piece is there or not there. So what that means is that as soon as a piece gets sold, as soon as the billing gets done, the data gets updated onto the inventory system, and the inventory gets subtracted for that data. And why I just gave this example again is to show us that how technology is transforming not only finance but businesses at large. And these mobile applications are also gaining, a lot of popularity, especially with inventory. I've seen a lot of mobile applications are being used. So this is what I wanted to talk about ERPs. So this is my discussion on ERPs. I'll now move to the next topic. This slide we've seen, which is data analytics. And data analytics, as Nanda sir and even Arun sir mentioned in the opening remarks, is something that is evolving and something that is becoming critical by the day. We need to understand that everything today is data driven. So what exactly does data analytics do? It is the process of converting raw data into actionable insights by finding relevant patterns. It would reveal the trends and metrics that would otherwise get lost in the mass of information that is there. So we need to understand that data itself is of very little value. Only when it is converted into information is it useful. And data analytics does precisely that. So data analytics will precisely do this. And taking a small example here, say in an organization, sales for a certain month have suddenly increased. Now we would be thinking as to, okay, why have these sales increased? What is the reason for the increase of the sales suddenly? But traditionally what used to happen is probably that you would go to the sales ledger and look at it, but just looking at the sales ledger will not give you enough of an idea as to what exactly has happened. We first need to identify whether the increase in sale is related to a particular product. If it is, which region has it been sold in, any particular customers who have bought the product, and further analysis could include the volume of increase that has happened per customer. So as we see, we have drilled down the data into various segments to kind of derive the meaningful information out of this data. And again, this is something, data analytics, this sort of data is something which an ERP can also give you, and for which you can have also tools. And as I mentioned, there are trends and metrics which are there that would otherwise get lost in the mass of information. So we need to understand, for example, in the example which I took, we need to understand what led to the immediate increase in sale. Of all the things, we may just realize that it was a one-time happening, or we may realize that this was not a one-time happening, this was due to a certain event, and we can plan better for this in the future. So some of these things are what data analytics would give us. It obviously assists in more meaningful, efficient, and strategy guided decision making. Decision making would obviously get more meaningful the more information we have. When we get a whole lot of information correctly presented in the right way, giving us the right figures and the accurate information, it would become meaningful. And our processes would become efficient, because earlier we used to spend time in extracting this data. We used to extract it on an Excel, then we used to put the relevant filters, draw a pivot table, etc. All of that is not required now. The data is coming to us on the ERP through the data analytics tool. And obviously, when we have so much of data sliced and diced, we are able to make decisions, strategy guided decisions, which are based on the vision and the mission of the organization, the strategy which the organization wants to follow. And then another point which is there is that data analytics is of 4 types. It could be descriptive analytics, diagnostic analytics, predictive analytics, and prescriptive analytics. And I'll just briefly touch upon these 4, though the names themselves are very clear what these 4 mean. Descriptive analytics means what exactly has happened, describing the situation which has taken place. Diagnostic would give us the reasons, one of the very important parts of the process. Say the sales has increased, so which customer, due to which customer, due to which product, what is the volume of increase. All that is something which diagnostic analytics would give us. Predictive analytics can make certain predictions, certain forecasts for the future using using data from the past. For example, a cash flow forecast can be built using predictive analytics, using some of the previous versions of how cash was received, how cash payments were made. We can make a predictive analytics of how our cash position would be, say, 2 months down the line, 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line. That is something which we can do through predictive analytics. And prescriptive analytics provide solutions to things which are expected to occur in future. So say if we realize that we are having our cash outflow is too much for the next 6 months, prescriptive analytics would analyze the data and will give us some suggestions or reasons as to how we can avoid the shortfall, how we can have a good cash position. As I mentioned earlier, these ERPs, the data analytics can be either built into the ERP, and there are other various tools through which they can be performed, from simple Microsoft Excel spreadsheets to more complicated and more, I wouldn't say complicated, to more advanced programs like Microsoft Power BI. So Power BI is something that has the capability to slice and dice information and give us very, very vast reports. There are organizations which, as I mentioned during the month end close, they want reports in particular formats. So using Microsoft Power BI, we can quickly kind of extract these reports in the desired format, not spend too much of time extracting them, but spending that required time in making the correct judgments and making the correct decisions in future, which from the data that the reports have shown us. These reports help, these organizations are helped in slicing and dicing this data and achieving the meaningful results. This would ultimately result in increase in profitability for the business. Now, before we move on to our next topic, I would like to briefly touch upon a development that technology has brought into the finance function. This is the development of shared service centers. Now, what is a shared service center? A shared service center refers to a dedicated unit, which includes people as well as technology, a cohesion between people and technology, that is structured as a centralized point of service and is focused on defined business functions. So what would happen is that people, a service center is set up where there would be 10, 15, 100, depending on the volume, depending on the size of the organization, 10, 15, 100 people working and doing some sort of dedicated business function. Why, how has this been achieved? Of course, with the advent of technology, we have connected the entire globe. Through internet, data gets shared across oceans and continents in a matter of seconds. As I mentioned earlier, these centers can be set up in a single place or in multiple places. To take an example, if an entity has multiple subsidiaries across the globe, they may set up a shared service center at any one place. Thus, the employees of that shared service center would perform a dedicated function for all the entities. The employees do not sit in different geographies, even though the subsidiaries are there in different geographies. The employees do not sit in different geographies. They just sit at a single place and they, perform these functions. How does it benefit us? Obviously, as we can imagine, this result in massive cost optimization, economies of scale, and standardization of work. Some of the finance functions are being performed by the shared service centers these days. It has led to greater efficiency since a single person or a set of persons is performing a job that was earlier being performed by people sitting in different geographies. More time is now available for the people in the finance function to focus on the core areas of operations. And we see a lot of service centers coming up in India these days. So this is exactly the reason, and this is how technology has helped us in setting up shared service centers. And this is coming into the finance domain in a huge way now. Now I'll move to the next section of my presentation, where I will look at what is next for the finance function. As we saw in my agenda, there was a section for what
Recording in
understand
progress.
what artificial intelligence is. AI is a form of technology that leverages computers and machines to simulate human intelligence. What this means is that the machines, using some patterns, are able to think in the way humans think and execute actions and solve problems and even do predictive analytics or do scenario modeling. This is something which AI is capable of. We all see the use of artificial intelligence in our everyday lives, and I'll take a very interesting example here. Uh, you would have noticed that, for example, if you are planning a vacation at home to a particular destination and talking about it, you'll realize that the next time you open any app on your mobile phone, you'll see advertisements popping up, for that particular destination. And you end up thinking that, oh, is this a coincidence? But let me tell you, this is no coincidence. When you are speaking, your phone is using, speech recognition to sort of recognize what you've said, and this data gets transferred, through the web to various places, and then you see these advertisements popping up on your phone. And what happens is that, since you are planning to visit that destination, this is something that AI does, and as I said, the computer is traveling with you everywhere in your pocket. So, planning to visit a destination, you talk about it, and this advertisement pops up. This is what AI does. So, looking at the finance function in AI, I'll first like to talk about chatbots and AI assistants. Now, chatbots and AI assistants are something which is being used in a very large way by the finance function. What exactly are chatbots and AI assistants? These are software programs designed to mimic human conversations and respond to user queries. Now, you would have seen that whenever we visit a website, sometimes there's a window which appears from the bottom. It's a chat bot which says that my name is XYZ and how may I help you. Now in certain cases you will see some pre-populated options there, that okay, you can only select 4 or 5 options, or in other cases you may have an option to type text into the chat bot, or even verbally speak your query, give the audio input. So these AI assistants then use speech recognition to understand the query and respond to you. They use their intelligence, which is built using patterns and trends, to answer your queries. And these chatbots are sometimes so advanced that it is very often, I remember using a website a few months ago, and there was this chatbot with whom I was chatting, and by the end of my conversation my query got resolved, and I did not get to know whether this was a human whom I was talking to or whether this was a robot. So these chatbots have become so advanced that it is some now difficult to even make out the difference between the two. As I mentioned earlier, they apply artificial intelligence and natural language processing to understand and respond to queries, and they can understand text input, audio input, or even both, without the need of any human intervention. How do they help in the finance function? They are very useful in resolving queries or complaints of customers in an effective and efficient manner. So customers, can visit the website of their businesses at any point of time, and they can ask any queries, whether they want a balance confirmation, whether they have a particular complaint with the product. They can visit the website. This chatbot would appear. The chatbot will be able to communicate with the ERP in a real time basis, and would be able to fetch the relevant balance related information and provide it to the customer. In some cases, the chatbots are even capable of resolving queries, or at least setting up appointment meetings for the customers. So what has happened is that instead, these chatbots are available 24/7, and customers can use them at any point of time. And if they are able to resolve their queries, we can imagine the level of customer satisfaction that would increase. So chatbots and technology definitely leads to increase in customer satisfaction. And as I mentioned earlier, they free up employees from performing of doing repetitive tasks. So if a chatbot can do all of this, the employees are freed up. They can concentrate more on the core areas. These chatbots are available to any number of users at a single point of time. So even if 200 customers come into the ERP at night to have their queries, come to the business website at night to have their queries resolved, uh, there would be 200 different windows of that chatbot available. But if we were to consider humans in that case, a human being would certainly not be able to resolve 200 queries in that short frame of time. So this is where chatbots and AI assistants are getting us to, and this is how they are making the finance process extremely efficient. And yes, of course, since they are available to such a large extent, they do not create any bottlenecks. Here I would just like to digress a little bit from our topic, because just to we sometimes tend to confuse bots and chatbots. So chatbots do not ever have any negative connotation associated with them. Bots sometimes we may attach them with things such as hacking and all, but chatbots are always used for the right purposes. And I'll talk a bit about the CAPTCHA code here, since we are talking about bots. Whenever we are, extracting some information from a website, we see this CAPTCHA code come up, which is this fancy string of characters, and we need to type it in. The full form of CAPTCHA is completely automated public Turing test to tell computers and humans apart. Basically, it is a test to identify whether the person who is logging into the system is a human being or is it a robot. So this test was developed, CAPTCHA. It is after the name of a famous scientist named Turing. And why I talked about this was that as we have seen technology evolve, even the CAPTCHA code has started evolving. Earlier, we just used to have that string of characters. Now we sometimes get a grid with pictures shown, and it will tell you that okay, sunset, ladder. So you need to tick the correct option. Why this has happened is because robots were now able to break that CAPTCHA code. So as the technology improved, robots improved. So we also had to improve our tests. So since we were discussing about chatbots, I thought I'll just mention about the CAPTCHA code a little. It is one of those things that irritate us when we are in a hurry to log into a website. But we need to take care that it is a very important inbuilt feature which is there. Coming to my next topic is what is the latest trend these days. We are all talking about this. This has completely changed the way things are functioning. We've all seen how Chat GPT has transformed our lives in the last 1 year or so. So, what does ChatGPT is an example of generative AI, which is the latest
Recording in progress.
So if you say it is almost as if the ChatGPT can do everything. You ask ChatGPT to write a paragraph for you on a certain topic, and within seconds, ChatGPT will give you a correct answer. You ask ChatGPT to prepare a recipe for you for dinner, it will take seconds for that recipe to come up. So now we are left to think, where is this coming from? This is coming from the intelligence that has been built into the system. And this is what generative AI is. As we see, these are algorithms that are capable of generating text, images, or other media by learning certain input patterns, which they've, learned from the data that has been fed in. These are tools that you can, that can think, and they can produce and extract reports and predict results as well. So in the finance function, what happens is that we do a very common exercise known as variance analysis. So what generative AI is capable of doing is that it is not only capable of giving us the drill down level of the variance analysis, but it can also to some extent give us reasons for the variance analysis, subjective reasons, not only the mathematical reasons but the subjective reasons for the variance analysis. To some extent, this is what generative AI can do. It can also do scenario modeling and prediction of things, how the future looks like using some of the data that it has. And this will obviously lead to massive effectiveness and efficiency in the financial operations. It will also assist us in preparation of statutory reports and in complying with legislations. So this is how Gen AI looks like. This I said, as I mentioned earlier, this is the what next. This is what the finance function may look like probably some years down the line. So I've discussed the technology related aspects which I wanted to in this webinar today. Now I'll come to my next slide, which is the benefits of adapting to technology. Some of these benefits we've already discussed, but I like to reiterate these once again. When we adopt technology, this results in fresh opportunities as it helps us to find new markets. As I mentioned earlier, using data analytic tools, we have access to a large amount of data, and as Arun sir was mentioning earlier, big data. So a huge amount of data information we have access to, and when we have access to such accurate and well presented data, it will obviously give us certain trends using which we will be able to expand our businesses, venture into new markets. We'll also be able to offer better products better suited to our customers. A practical example here would be that when we visit some of these e-commerce websites, they give suggestions that these are the products you can buy. So how does this come up? This comes up from the historical data. Our historical purchasing pattern has been analyzed by that mobile application, and that is what throws those suggestions to us. Even when we are using the streaming platforms these days, those suggestions come up that you can you can watch those movies, you can watch these shows. It is all based on the historical pattern of what is there, and that is how technology helps us offer better products which are better suited to our customers. It gives real-time information resulting in efficiency of processes. As I mentioned earlier, organizations these days can have real-time results. You can have a real-time P&L balance sheet in the touch of a button. So at any given point of time, you can extract your P&L, balance sheet, cash flow forecast, etc. Tasks can be performed sitting anywhere on the globe with just the help of an internet connection. This also we discussed. Accuracy of information leads to meaningful and strategic decision making. Obviously, again, data analytics, so much of information, we can, make decisions which are in line with the vision and mission of the firm. Better management of resources and cost optimization. Going back to what we were discussing in the beginning, the ERP has many modules. So when you have everything on an ERP, it is obviously, you'll be able to better manage your resources. And when you are able to better manage your resources, it'll lead to better decision making and cost optimization. People are sometimes wary of technology that it has threats. It certainly has, but if the if the control environment is robust and it is being monitored regularly, there can be nothing more secure than data through technology. So we need to have a robust control environment and regular monitoring of that environment to avoid any mishaps over the web. And all of these things combined, when an organization is seen as embracing technology, adapting to change, taking the right steps, this leads to investor and stakeholder confidence, and the company grows in value. So these are some of the benefits of adapting to technology. I'll move to my next slide again, which is a very important slide. Challenges and cautions to be exercised. So what I've done is that I've listed the challenges and some of the cautions that we can take. As I mentioned in the beginning of my presentation, implementation of technology and all these things which we talked about seem very rosy. But when we actually implement them, we realize the challenges that are there in all of these things. So, for example, these days, something which is becoming common is hacking of the data by malicious elements or ransomware attacks, which are there. We saw that this was all over the news last year that, one hospital in India was the target of a malicious attack, whereby, some of the systems were compromised. So how to prevent this is by using antivirus protections, using firewalls. The latest version of all of these things need to be there. We need to have a robust data backup system. If our systems have been compromised and we don't have any backup, then God only knows how we'll progress with our business, because then everything is lost. So data backup systems need to be robust and need to be updated at regular intervals. Third-party audits can be organized, for vendors. Now, we talked about cloud ERPs, cloud computing earlier. So I mentioned that, there the security aspect primarily lies with the vendor, because the data is all there on the cloud. So the vendor is responsible for, providing a security. But for us as businesses, it is important to get those vendors, the security standards at those places audited, because whose data is at stake? It is not the vendor's data who's at stake. It is our data that is at stake. So we need to have regular third-party audits of these vendors, so to ensure that they are complying with the relevant security and information technology standards. Another challenge could be unrestricted access to ERP data. Now, what this means is that, suppose we have a chart of accounts on an ERP, or we have a vendor master on an ERP. Now, everyone cannot be given access, to create a new account or to create a new vendor in the system, because that would lead to deficiency in our controls and it will increase the risk of fraud. So we have to build robust ITGC control environment, and we have to do a restriction of user and access rights, so that only the relevant people have access to the ERP. Another case could be that an unauthorized user enters the system. Now, what does this mean? That a person has been able to enter through someone else's username, or maybe he's seen the password and is able to enter the system. How can this be stopped? We need to have robust IT policies and we need to enforce these policies. It is not only important to have these policies, it is important that these policies are enforced in practice. Cyber security trainings need to be given to employees, and they need to be tested on these on the same, so that we are aware that our employees are aware of our IT policies and they are also trained accordingly. Another thing which is coming up these days is, obviously there you can have a strong password policy, the number of characters, that the password needs to be changed every 3 months, so on and so forth. These are things that which can take place. Another important development is having multi-factor authentication. Now, what is multi-factor authentication? So suppose, a user is logging onto his or her system. We enter our username, we enter our password, we click enter, and we are able to enter the system. Now, this is single factor authentication because only the password determines our entry into the system. And if our password is seen by someone else, they can also enter into our system. With multi-factor authentication, once you enter your password and click login, you'll get a pop-up saying that an OTP has been sent to your mobile number. And you'll receive an OTP on your mobile number, enter that OTP, and now you'll get access to the system. So multi-factor authentication makes it difficult for, any unauthorized user to enter the system. I know some of us may be using these things such as multi-factor authentication, and we would find it irritating at times. But then we need to realize the usefulness of these things, because these are the things that keep our data secure. Then there could be instances that employees are unable to use the ERP properly. This is also a challenge because then this would lead to inefficiency in the organization. So in such cases, sufficient trainings need to be provided to employees. There are guides and manuals, which the employees can see on, how to use the ERP. At the time of implementation of the ERP, a proper user acceptance testing should be done, so that later on there are no problems. Then there is something which is also there these days is unwanted spam or emails which have certain links. Now this email will come up into your inbox and it will seem very genuine. It will seem to you as if it's coming from your organization or from someone you know. But when you look at it carefully, it would have some gray area, something which will not connect. So you should always check the address from which you receive an email, especially if that email contains any link. And on Outlook, there's a button on top known as the phishing mail. There's a fish made there. You can click that button, and your IT team would get the notification that you've received a wrong email on your inbox. Another challenges, I mean, there are multiple challenges, but these are some of those which I've listed down, is exposure due to integrations. When we were talking about ERPs, we discussed that, we can integrate our ERPs with our legacy systems. But this can, give an opportunity to certain malicious elements to enter our ERPs, because when the integration takes place, the systems are talking to each other through a medium. So the hacker may come in between. So to avoid this, we can, use the latest encryption technologies which are there these days to avoid such sort of incidents. So that is all from my side for today. I'll just sum up what all we've discussed. We started, our discussion with, how technology is evolving, how it has changed our lives. We went on to talk about basic softwares. Then we discussed ERPs, the modules within an ERP. We talked about optical character recognition, facial recognition. Then we talked about chatbots, AI assistants. And finally, we delved into the world of generative artificial intelligence. And we looked at the benefits and challenges and the cautions to be exercised. So that would be it from my side. Now we can move on to any questions and answers that the audience may have. Arun sir, I would request you to take over from here.
I'm just checking out the question if there is any. Can you please hold for a second? I'm just checking it out. I'm checking whether there is any question and all.
Okay.
Because I don't see any question now. I'm not seeing any question. Could you please elaborate on this enhanced that we do know the second factor
Multi-factor
password?
authentication.
Yes. Could you please elaborate
Okay.
on that?
Yes, a multi-factor authentication is something very simple. Basically, when we are say logging onto our email, we have to type our password and then we press login, and it gives
Correct.
access to our email. But what
Uh-huh.
multi-factor authentication does is that even after we've entered our password, we don't get access. There is another level of authentication. It may be an OTP which you may receive on your phone number. So you need to enter that OTP also to get access to the system.
And you
That
want to say
is-
that it is more secure.
It is, yes, it is more secure, and that is why I mentioned it on this slide as a caution,
Okay.
which needs to be exercised.
Because at times when we are doing all this, we do find multi-factor. We just ignore that.
Ignore as in?
Like we ignore the second factor authentication.
No. So yes, this needs to be made mandatory. If we don't enter the OTP, we should not be allowed access into the system. And in organizations these days, multi-factor authentication is being widely used. And yes, it slows you down a bit, but I would say that it is a very secure feature on the same side.
Oh, okay. Hold for a second. I'm just checking out the question. Hold for a second.
Yes. I hope my presentation was visible throughout.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Yes.
Actually, it was thoroughly presentable. Okay, there are several questions. I'll take a few.
Yes.
There's a question from Nadita Hasanjay, Sri Lanka. What is the new trend in AI? What are the new trends in AI?
Okay. So AI is a very, very, very vast area, as we discussed. Everything that we do today is not everything, but a lot of things that we do today are based on AI. So let us say when we open our phone, we use our face. That is facial recognition. That is AI. We in some organizations for attendance, biometric is being used. That is AI, because it recognizes your fingerprint. So AI has a lot of scope. It is very vast. And the latest, as I mentioned, in AI is, of course, generative AI. Why it is the latest? Because generative AI has capability to think like humans, and it is better than the previous versions of AI which was there. So we did not have something like ChatGPT 2 years ago. So again, I keep emphasizing that point, that technology is evolving very, very fast. So these are some of the the trends in AI, and this is something, probably, I don't know, I am no one to comment on that, but this is something which we may have to slowly adapt to.
Okay, there is one more question. It's from Gregory Fernando, Sri Lanka. What this impact on double entry bookkeeping system? How it impact on the technology impact on double bookkeeping system?
Okay, double bookkeeping system.
Double entry bookkeeping system.
Yes. Okay. Double entry, yes, debit and credit, right?
Correct.
Yes. So double entry. So this is, I think, basically a question related to ERPs, which I was talking about. So ERPs have their own, inbuilt form of double entry. It's not that double entry goes away. If the double entry would go away, the trial balance would never tally. The double entry is there, but the entries are not posted in a simple way that probably we study. It is not, these entries are not posted in that way. There is a proper sequence in which these entries are posted, but the double entry aspect goes away nowhere. That is the foundation of accounting. Technology can never change any foundation, and debits and credits double entry would always remain.
Yeah. Okay, there is a question from Vikas Taneja. Can you pick up on how do we ensure robust controls that are present effective in the overall digital solution?
It's about controls, right?
Correct. Robust controls.
Yes. So as I mentioned in my presentation also, with technology, there is always a risk. And to mitigate these risks, it is important to have robust ITGC controls and a complete control framework needs to be there. And not only does the control framework need to be there, it also needs to be monitored.
Correct.
Now, taking an example of a control, say I was, during my presentation discussing about the procure to pay cycle.
Yeah.
So an invoice may be loaded onto the system. It may get requisite approval. So it's loaded onto the system by one person. It goes through the system. It goes for an approval. So now we see that there is a control here. No one can just post an invoice directly into the system. It is getting approved. Also, even after the approval, as I mentioned earlier, there would be a three-way match which would be there. A three-way match between the PO quantity and amount, the invoice quantity and amount, and the goods receipt note.
Correct.
So this three-way match is also a control which is built into the ERP. Now, looking at other IT-based controls which could be there is that, as we were talking about earlier, Arun sir, we could have multi-factor authentication. We could have a strong password policy. We could have restriction of user access rights. We could have also be done at, third-party vendors. So all these are controls which need to be built in. And it's not that, these things would happen in a period of, 1 day or so. It takes time, it takes months, sometimes it takes years to have these, robust controls in place.
Correct. There is a second leg of this question. How do we as a chartered accountant can assess whether the coding part has been done rightly and the end result we are getting on a screen or as a printout is correct? How do we ensure that?
Okay, so if I am to understand this question correctly, this question relates to the implementation bit.
Rather on what I could take from this question is, okay, the coding has been done, the algorithm has been written. There is the input from five points, and I'm getting the final result. So how could I assess that result which I'm getting in my hand or in my laptop is accurate? How can I assess that thing?
Okay, so what happens is that whenever we are putting in place such a large system, there is always a user acceptance testing which is done before such systems are put in place. And when we are doing this user acceptance testing, we build a lot of scenarios. We build a lot of tests that are there. So if we have built, as the person has mentioned, some code, and we need to test the output, this would be done as part of the user acceptance testing. So the user would, extract the output from the system, check the report, and if there is any error, we would need to inform the IT team that, okay, this is wrong here, this needs to be corrected, and the IT team would then go back and correct this in the system.
Okay. One more question. Can you please, this is Samir Datta from Gurgaon. Can you please tell me more about Microsoft Power BI?
Okay. Samir, Microsoft Power BI is, it's a tool, and we can talk about it a lot because there's a lot to talk about. Microsoft Power BI can do a whole lot of things. But currently, since our topic is impact of technology on the finance domain, Microsoft Power BI, can be used to extract a whole lot of reports. It's basically Power BI is Power Business Intelligence. So it has the intelligence to, extract a whole lot of data in the format in which we require. Sometimes, companies at their month end require reports in a particular format, or they want to see the data in a particular format, which the accounting system or the ERP system may not give them. Microsoft Power BI
No, the
tool
question is,
can be used by.
sorry for interrupting, but the question is, we are talking about the chartered accountant side. That is okay, but how can chartered accountant, be benefited by using Microsoft Power BI?
Yes, the chartered accountants who are there, in these who are work finance professionals, what do we do today? We, take out these reports on our Excel sheets, and then we do a whole lot of number crunching, and it takes hours and hours. We draw pivot tables and we do all of those things. It takes hours to, extract the data and come to a conclusion. Microsoft Power BI would give us a ready-made report, and what we will spend more time now is on subjective analysis of that report. So if say earlier we only got 2 or 3 hours to do the analysis, now probably we can spend 8 or 10 hours. We save that much of time.
So
Which
you intend to say that we need to upload our report and then let the AI work on it.
no. The AI would automatically give us our report. We don't need Excel to we don't need to draw pivot tables. We
But
don't need
there
to
must be some input of the information. No?
input of information would be the ERP.
Right. Okay. Now
Yes.
you want to say that we will be giving access of our EIP to this Microsoft BI.
Yes.
Is that so?
No, it is not access, but yes, Power BI will get integrated into our ERP
Okay, through API.
through API, yes, or through other technologies.
Okay. There one more question. Shrikant S from Bangalore. Any open source robotic process automation tool you have come across and would like to suggest us, which you feel would be helpful in the area of finance?
Honestly, I haven't much worked on RPA, so I would not comment on this question. But yes, I can certainly note this down, and I can get back on this.
Okay. Udit, it was a very good session. I thanks you for this session, for this elaborative presentation, and making every attendee understand how technology is going to impact our profession.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you everyone. It was great doing this presentation.
Yes. Now I'll invite Mr. Sanjeev Arora ji to please take over the session. Sanjeev Arora ji.
Yes, thank you, Arun. And
Good evening,
thanks for
sir.
the introduction. Good evening, everyone. I
Good
can
evening,
see
sir.
that there are so many people asking some good quality questions, and the presentation by Udit was a nice one, covering ERP, analytics, AI, and the way forward. What
Correct,
I'm
sir.
going to present is something probably, I mean, this is an application area. When what was covered was ERP and other things. What I'm trying to cover is going to be a more of a, what do you call it, the fintech ecosystem. I will
Okay.
look at the entire fintech ecosystem and what we have today, what we see today, what we are going to see in the future, is something that will be part of my presentation, and I'll try to talk about how the controls, IT controls, or cybersecurity controls need to work in this ecosystem to bring about secure services for the customer and the business itself. Let me share my screen. 1 second. Yeah. I would welcome anybody to stop me at any point of time if there is a question in between. So, I mean, Arun, you can probably help me there if there
Surely,
are
sir.
there's
Surely,
a
sir.
question in between, because I would love to have an interactive, session if there is, because many of the participants have many of the, they have their own area. So I'm going to cover about the financial sector and cybersecurity in respect to that sector, IT and cybersecurity. Okay, that's the topic of the presentation. So let's moving on to the next slide. 1 second. So our objectives are this. First, let's try to understand the financial sector itself. Not that you do not know about this sector, you definitely know, but I'm going to enlighten you more on what's happening in the real world. What are the challenges this sector is facing? What regulations are applicable to this sector? Of course, you know those regulations, but we'll discuss it further. And IT and cybersecurity controls that are required here. Okay. So, just to give you a little background, of course, I have been introduced. So, I'm a purely tech person. I'm not a chartered accountant. I'm not as qualified as you people are. I'm just a tech person, and however, I mean, CISA and CISM and other certifications I hold. And IT audit is something you can say, primary work today. And risk consultant, cybersecurity consultant is my consultancy is my primary work today, which basically brings to point that if there are queries or if I'm coming from a practical scenario to give you this presentation. Okay, fintech sector. Fintech sector. Let's just understand it's not banking only. Okay, that's the first point that I want to break. When we talk of financial sector, we talk of, let's say, other areas. We are not talking banking only. Okay, stock trading in banks, under banking and financial institutions, we have banks, we have mobile banking, we have NBFCs, we have microfinance, we have prepayment systems, we have Airtel, mobile apps. Then we have stock trading. That's again a financial system because it's trading of stocks, commodities, and other things. Then we have real estate, is also because what banks are doing in real estate is related to valuations. I mean, when you give a collateral to the bank and you want a loan against it, the bank will value your real estate. So that's another aspect. So insurance companies, different type of insurances, financial advisory services. There's so many tons of company today which give financial advisory services to not just the bank themselves and the bigger institutions, but there are advisory services who give individuals or corporates how to invest, where to invest, individual level planning, HNI, high net worth individuals. It covers all that. Then we have credit rating agencies, CIBIL, CRISIL, and then there are payment gateway providers who allow the payments to happen. Okay, so one second. Okay, so on the right hand side, you can see we are talking of retailers, online e-commerce. That's again a fintech because money is actually transacting between the customer and the bank of the supplier. Service providers, Airtel, ISPs, internet service providers, accounting and CA firms, they're part of this ecosystem, which is very critical. And of course, cross-border transfer of funds, SWIFT. And within India, of course, we have IMPS, we have NEFT, and so on. And let me just start by telling you the bottom line is very important for you to understand. The primary financial institutions, by primary I mean who give the first level of service to the customer, automatically become data controllers because the data they collect from a customer and that data is further shared with, let's say, CIBIL agency, CRISIL agency, or that data is shared with payment processors, or advisory is, being offered by specialist consultants. So all that becomes kind of, you can say supplier in the chain, the rest of the suppliers. So what customers want from a financial institution, these are things customers are looking at: trust and transparency, clear communication. I mean, the products and services that a bank will offer should be very clear in terms of what they offer. Because in the bracket, there's always a fine line. It says When you talk of, there's a very famous advertisement, mutual fund sahi hai. You must have seen those advertisements going in, day out. They talk of the risks have to be understood by the individuals of investing. Quality of service is important. The financial services have to give quality, timely service, easy, statements, easy customer support. All that is part of. New products have to be offered based on what's available, what's not available. Customer awareness is, of course, very important. You get constantly SMS, do not share your CVV, do not share your password, do not share your PIN to anybody, but there are people who are making mistakes left, right, and center and, losing money. And of course, data security and privacy. Data should not be disclosed by banks to any other party even if it's a third party, bank is responsible. If they share with someone who is going to give the customer the service, the bank is responsible because the data controller is the top level service provider. Okay. So these are things which customers want. And naturally, because the entire ecosystem has to support this. Further, what customers want, a good feedback system. If services are bad, customer can comment on that, make a complaint if required, and get a resolution. Innovation has to be there constantly. We are seeing, what Udit mentioned, AI-driven chatbots and other things. Those are all part of the innovation. Okay, and of course,
So can I ask you a question, sir?
Yes, of course.
Sir, I need to inquire whereby we can search or note it down that the data we are sharing with the one institution where they are sharing that data with. How can we find that thing?
You can find that out. You cannot find that out, but you can find the terms and conditions. If you look at any bank website today, there is a document at the bottom which says privacy policy. The privacy policy explicitly is supposed to say if the customer bank is sharing data, then how are they protecting that data from any unauthorized sources? So privacy policy actually gives you the individual rights, and it gives you rights to protect your data. It tells you where this data will be shared. So please look at privacy policies because they are going to be very critical in the coming times because, I'm going to touch upon that point. Let me just tell you, we have the new personal data law, which is called the Digital Personal Data Protection Law of India. That has already been passed by Parliament of 7th of August this year, and this is going to become a reality. So any company dealing with, let's say, a lot of individual customers like banks do all the time, insurance do all the time.
Most of the time we get calls from this insurance companies and loan companies that sir.
That's because our data is stolen and being shared with marketing companies, and there is a rampant misuse.
And okay, sir, please touch upon this thing. How can we, restrict or to whom we can make a complaint or a SMS, or how do we, stop all this unwanted SMSs and calls?
At current situation, we have a do not call DND registry is there, do not disturb registry, but that has failed to quite an extent to be becoming effective. So what I normally do, let me tell you by practical example. I'm not picking up any unknown calls, and these days there are systems like Truecaller or inbuilt softwares by Samsung and so on platforms where they give you an indication that this is a spam call, this is a marketing call, this could be fraud. So I'm trying to block everything like that, and in a way I'm trying to protect myself. But soon this law will help. The DPDP law implementation has not started, but it will definitely help.
Right. Please continue, sir. Please continue.
Okay. So now let's understand the financial sector services chain. Everything a bank is doing is not being done by the bank. Okay. Like call centers are third party. Then the legal and regulatory services could be again third party. Market and branding of the bank on social media platforms could be third party. Like, so what I'm trying to tell you is these are third parties that work with the fintech sector, which means there is a data sharing, which we cannot avoid, and that increases our risk. Okay. So as a privacy practice, what we need to understand, this is required because we are in a world today where the open banking system is working. When I say open, it means it's giving you so many services. Like, for example, I use Paytm to do, for example, all my transactions of payments very easily, connecting my one single UPI ID to multiple banks. And that is necessary because the ease of feasibility. Let me also tell you, and it's a proud feeling to tell that in India, the way we have implemented our, what do I call it, these Paytm wallets, GPay, Beam, and so on, all these platforms we have implemented very well with our financial sector. So much so that, every single, vegetable cart, every single pan ka dukan, every single small even vendor who cannot even read properly is successfully using this model, and it's pretty secure. So we must understand that open banking is gone to that extent. No other country really has this kind of, I have not seen in any other country. I've traveled a lot. I've hardly seen this level of penetration in anywhere in the world. Okay, so open banking basically means APIs. Banks give standardized APIs for their vendors to integrate with them. And of course, before any vendor is integrated, there are things like non-disclosure agreements are being signed by the bank. Banks have service level agreements, bank have confidentiality agreements, and so on and so forth. But the open banking is enabling a lot of things to get connected, whether it is getting new services, whether it is getting ease of services. So, and it's a global adoption. So today we are in a world where, we are very well connected, but at the same time, it's a risk which we have to be aware of. Let me tell you, there is more risk today in a manual. If you go to a bank to withdraw money using a checkbook, there is more risk there than there is a risk to withdraw from an ATM. So comparatively, I'm telling you, today online systems are safer provided we take some safeguards in mind and we follow those. I mean, this presentation, of course, requires a long amount of time, but I'm going to still, try to fit in this available time slot.
So there is a question.
Yes.
It is Ramakrishna Pusaria. He's from Visakhapatnam. We were just speaking about Truecaller.
Yes.
So he has a question. Is using Truecaller safe? Are there any risk of use of that app?
I will say it's mostly safe because Truecaller is an Indian company. Firstly, it's not a Chinese company. Number one. Number two, yes, you can always review. What is important when you install apps on your mobile phone. You must look at permission section in the settings. You must see which settings are, which permissions are being used by which apps. That is something you should dive into, and see which apps are using which permissions. And maybe you can disallow some permissions to those apps.
But Sanjeev sir, there are various apps. Unless and until you allow all the permissions, they don't let you in.
Yes, if there is any app which asking you all the permissions, please delete it.
Right.
I'm being candid there.
Right.
You may not like it, but which means that no app today, every app, let's say, for example, I'll give you an example. When an app uses your location, it is asking you that, do you want to give the location permission? So I always give the permission as use my location while I'm using the app, not after I've finished using.
Okay.
So that kind of setting is something within your hand.
Right.
And it's important that the individual is knowledgeable, individual is aware, that they don't make,
And what do you suggest while installing an app? There are so numerous permission like camera, microphone, contacts,
right.
and all that. What all permission should be allowed
Yeah.
to keep ourselves safe?
See, primarily, I'll tell you one of the important aspects which I'll tell you, since there is a fair amount of audience from different locations, as I can understand. One of the biggest data leak point is our SMS data. So if you let's say we get SMSs all the time throughout the day, right? Now, unfortunately, people are making a mistake of not deleting this data on a regular basis. I'll just to give you an example. In my phone, I have only 10 or 11 SMSs lying on my SMS database. Okay. People have data which is lying for maybe months and years. They have not deleted that data. So SMS is the biggest leak of data to these apps. Right? Because every bank transaction, every purchase you do, every, let's say, loan installment, every your mobile service provider messages, name the type of services you are using, everybody is sending you an SMS. And if this data is available, it knows very well how much money you're transacting, whether you're purchasing, whether you're withdrawing, whether you're paying someone. So this is very dangerous data. I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart, this is the most important data, or this is the most critical data that these apps misuse.
Correct.
So it's in your interest, please delete SMSs as much as possible, as regularly as possible. Number one. Number two is location should be given as per, only during the use of the app. Then camera allowed is required by only a few apps. For example, Paytm requires the camera because it has to scan the QR code. Then there are some apps which require, not every app requires a camera. So you can disable that, right? So this is a common sense kind of approach to whether this app is using. And any app is using too many permissions, most likely is not a good app.
So please continue, sir. Please continue with your slides.
Yeah. So let me tell you some success stories of our banks. HDFC has, implemented heavily in cybersecurity. If you look at the top 10 banks in the country in terms of technology, HDFC, ICICI Bank, and Kotak Mahindra, they come as number 1 and number 2, 3 as a technology implementer. So that's important to know that these banks, because they're investing into technology, and they're investing heavily into technology. And just to give you an indication, a bank like HDFC, just to give you an idea, they must be spending something around maybe their average spending a year would be about 2,000 crores. It's a huge expense the banks are incurring. So we should understand that it's not just a matter of 10 or 15 crores. They're easily spending in the region of 2,000, 2,500 crores, these big banks annually. ICICI Bank is another very strong bank in the cybersecurity. I'll not spend much time here. Kotak Mahindra is another one. NPCI is another corporation, is the central payment system of the country today. They also have a very strong, that's because thanks to NPCI, our UPI and these other integrated open banking or integrating of apps versus e-commerce, everything is working very seamlessly. So this is one agency which is responsible quite a bit. Okay, so this was just to give you an overview. What is the financial sector all about? What challenges it faces? This, I'm sure you are all aware. This happened 3-4 days back, or last month actually. Sorry, not very recently. 820 crore fraud in UCO Bank. Okay. And this has basically happened because some 2 IT support engineers, they were working with the bank and they transferred 820 crores from 7 private bank accounts to 41,000 UCO Bank accounts using IMPS. And this happened between November 10 and November 13. CBI is investigating this. Okay. So this is the most recent attack. And this, to me, it looks like both a cyber attack, a financial fraud, and a technical glitch. We can delve in it later. Why I'm saying all three together? Because to manage fraud and transfer to 41,000 accounts is not easy through a manual process. It can't be done manually, or this data cannot be, fed into the system manually. They probably tried to, what I can understand by this, fraud is, as a cybersecurity person, that they tried to transfer some money to some selected accounts, but the technical glitch resulted in something more happening, which was beyond their control, it seems. It's a faulty, you can say, what should I say, software, or some action they took which was faulty. Because imagine if two people are caught with 820 crore fraud, their life is finished. In terms of the career is finished, their family life is finished, because they'll be tried for a long time. Okay. Then I'm talking about some other breaches, like we talked about, Udit mentioned. He didn't mention the hospital name, which was public news. AIMS, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, was attacked, and there was a ransomware attack there, and it was down the systems were down for 20 odd days. And one of the things which probably is not publicly disclosed is they paid something like 250 crores as ransom to get the data back. And these are other instances. If you see, what I'm trying to tell you here is that the big attacks happen, small attacks don't happen. They're not worth it. In terms of, the money, cyber crime industry is the largest growing industry in the world. It is today touching revenues in region of $6 to $8 trillion a year. So there's no industry which is bigger than cybercrime. So if we are not ready, if we are not protecting ourselves, if we are not protecting our data, we are not protecting our companies, we are not protecting our systems, I'm going to tell you that it's a very risky position. If you see here, most of the time it says the volume of the data you see is 140,000 records were stolen, 885 million credit card applications stolen, 8.2 million employees. So we are not talking one or two customers, or we are not talking thousands, we are talking millions of customers. Okay. What are the challenges? Data breach is always happening. Let me tell you, banks are the most attacked institutions by cyber hackers. The maximum attacks happen on cyber banks and financial institutions where money is transacting. And most of these attacks are 24/7. The banks have to be fixing these problems 24/7. And there are teams watching these attacks 24/7. That's the situation at ground level. Okay. There are ransomware attacks. It happens through phishing attacks. Insider threats. This is one of the, again, a very big threat, where employees themselves they join hands with vendors, they join hands with somebody to make money, big money in this. And insider is always a big risk. Okay. I'm not covering each and every bullet point. It's there for you to read and kind of understand. There are supply chain vulnerabilities. When we are talking, when financial institutions or banks are working with third-party vendors, there is always a data sharing happening because of the services to be given by those third parties. So the compromise can happen at the third-party level, or the third party may have another third party working for them. So we don't know where the chain lies. So there are systems which anywhere the leak can happen, data leak can happen. Okay. Mobile and online banking. This is another aspect. We have too much online banking, but this is Like I said, if you take precautions, it's safer than manual or going to the bank or the precautions basically means do not disclose your password, do not reply to emails, do not reply to SMS, do not reply to WhatsApp message, ignore everything. If you have this mindset that you will ignore everything, every call, every SMS, every email, please ignore. Do not download any software that you are not sure of on your mobile app or computer. You will be safe.
I'll
Crypto,
ask a question here, sir. So sorry to
yeah, again,
interrupt. On this
sure, sure.
mobile and online banking security,
Yeah.
you just spoke that
Yeah.
you should not download any application or software.
Yeah,
But at times there are only two platforms from where we download apps. It is Google and then Apple.
correct.
How can we be sure that the application that we are downloading to our mobile is safe?
See, one of the things you have to see, these two platforms are safe. Number one, let me tell you, that downloading something from any other place is wrong,
Right.
is the more risk.
Okay.
So these
Okay.
platforms are perfectly safe. Number
Right.
one. Number two point is that when you download, please look at how many users have downloaded this application. If the numbers is in excess of 1 million, then that
Okay.
means there are many users using. Number one. Number two, you can look at reviews of this app before you download it. Number
Right.
three, you should see, most important aspect is whether this app is really useful for you.
Okay.
The usefulness is something you can decide. I cannot decide for you.
Right.
Right?
No,
Every
my
individual.
question was just about the platform from where we are downloading
No,
the
no,
app.
these platforms are absolutely safe.
Right.
100%. So much safe that, I'll tell you, we have also developed a mobile app some time back. If we do not update our app as per the security practices being followed by these two platforms, they disable your app every 3
Okay.
months.
Okay. Okay.
And they're even disabling the Chinese made apps or even disabling these financial fintech, some of the fintech mobile apps, online loan systems, online financing systems. Many of these fraud companies are there running the apps, and those are being blocked.
Sure. Please
So these
continue,
are
sir.
safe platforms.
Please
Okay.
continue.
Lack of cybersecurity talent, we all know it's a huge shortage of cybersecurity professionals. Technology is becoming more and more complex because of AI, because of machine learning, because of cloud. So, what we need to understand is that because it's more complex, which means that the banks or the institutions or the different people who monitor this system, the auditors, have to make sure that the companies are following it and they are making they are implementing right controls, right tools. They have the knowledge of security people. Because if, let's say, for example, if a bank like let's say uh, bank like a cooperative bank do not have good IT people, then I don't need to worry too much. But if a bank like, let's say, UCO Bank, if I go and find that they have only a IT team of 20 people, then I'm worried. You understand? So that's what is important. Let me tell you, CISA qualification. Many of you would know what is a CISA qualification. I don't have to go there. SBI Bank has the maximum number of CISAs in-house in the country. No other company has so many CISA hired by a particular institution. So they've done their internal audit department, internal audit and inspection department is themselves very strong. Okay.
So
Of
there are
course,
two questions which are
yeah,
related.
right.
One is from Nagar Adhika Bhai from Bangalore. So
Yeah.
how when we are surfing on laptop or our tablet or through browser,
Right.
how can we be assured that the website page of the bank is correct one?
Yeah, it's a good question. We cannot be sure because there are many fake pages for literally all the banks, all the bigger financial institutions available on the internet. Number one, do not log into a bank by putting your search on it. Search is not a good idea. You should exactly know the name of the website, and that name of the website you should put in the search with including the .com, including the full name you should give on the search engine, not the search engine, the URL on top, and then save it in your favorites and use.
But on the contrary, sir, we search that the URL from Google itself.
No. You may search the URL, but you have to first make sure that it is exactly correct. The spelling has to be exactly correct. The page has to be exactly correct. There are a lot of fakes available, so we have to take care the first time, definitely. And let me tell you today, I mean, the latest, people who are using online banking for SBI, their website name for online banking is now called onlinesbi.sbi. It cannot be created as fake. .com can be created, please understand. .net can be created, but .sbi as an extension name or the URL name cannot be created as fake because it's not allowed.
So you're advertising that people should shift over to SBI?
No, I'm not. No, what I'm trying to tell you is SBI has, for their own security, they've
Right.
changed the online. It was onlinesbi.com earlier. Now .com can be faked by the alphabet E can be changed to some other character and it looks like E.
Correct. There is one more related question from P.
Right.
Murali Krishna Prasad Khamam.
Yeah.
That his question is, while using internet banking on the browser, if the same person has installed TeamViewer or this AnyDesk, is that safe or it can be
It's
hacked?
okay. There's no problem.
Right. Thanks.
There's no problem.
Please continue, sir. Please
Multiple things happen today. People have to work as well as have meetings and also
Correct.
do some. So it's safe because every browser, whenever you open a page on a browser, it's a unique session in the world.
Okay.
So that session uniqueness makes sure that it cannot be breached by another session.
Right. Please continue, sir. Please.
Okay. What is a dark web? Who steals data and why? Do you know Aadhaar data, personal data of 81 crores Indians is on sale on dark web? And it's available for how much, Just to give you an example, it's available for $80,000 US. Okay, then there are some other examples. So I'm just telling you, today the problem is we should not worry whether my data is stolen. Please understand, it has been stolen. Okay, let us face that fact. But we need to protect ourselves that no further damage can happen. Okay, lot of data is stolen. All Fortune 500 companies in the world, their data has been stolen to dark web. So whatever we do today, it may not be enough to protect our data. But going forward, if you are careful, let's say, for example, I'll tell you, when you make your login ID and password on Gmail, right? And then you make login ID and password on a bank site. The two passwords that you keep, please keep them separate. The banking passwords should be different from your Gmail passwords. And other websites, e-commerce, let's say Flipkart or Amazon, don't use the same password, because what happens is bank password will remain safe. It will not be stolen. But there are chances on the other websites your data can get stolen, and that password can get misused on your banking site. So try to keep those segregated, separate, and don't mix the personal versus the financial transaction IDs and passwords. Try to keep them separate. And I know it's a challenge, but this is for your safety. Okay. Who steals data? We all know, for financial gain. People steal data for identity theft. What is identity theft? Your KYC data getting stolen, your personal profile on Facebook, your Instagram or other places getting stolen, fake sites getting created. All that is, there are hackers who want to misuse your identity. And obviously, they will attack only those people who have money or who have some, let's say branding to protect, or some, personal data to protect. They will not attack everyone. Hackers are very smart. Let's understand, hackers are about 5 times smarter than all of us in this room. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. This is what I was talking about, privacy. Banks and financial institutions have to share data, because otherwise open banking or multi-dimension banking, multi-services you may not get, because one institution cannot give all the service. So we have to, as a privacy model, if you look at, please go to bank sites, any other company website, at the bottom you'll see a privacy policy. Please read that. And if you feel this company is not giving a good privacy policy, maybe that company website you stop using for your own safety. Okay. So consent basically means, today when you, let's say, visit a website, it always pops up a question. Do you want to save cookies? Do you want to allow cookies? Do you want to allow notifications? Notifications, of course, I am blocking everything. But cookies I have to accept, because if I don't accept cookies are like a software which stores on your computer. I'll not go into details. But those cookies will definitely have to be saved. So you have to, but why the websites are popping this? It basically, the moment you click yes, okay, or yes, then it means you are giving a consent for them to save. That's what happening at the background. So they're keeping your data, and they know who you are, from which IP you are coming, which location you are coming. They know all that data. Please understand, the moment you are using a computer, please understand the data is always going somewhere. It's not, you can never say that my data will not go, even if you use a private browsing window. Okay. Many people think that I'm using a private window, my data will not go. No, your data will still go. It may not be saved on your computer or mobile, but the data will go to wherever it has to go. Okay. Data analytics, what Udit also mentioned, data analytics cannot happen if you don't share data. Data localization is very important. This is something you should understand. RBI has a very clear law, clear guideline that no data of financial sector of Indian customers can go outside India, can be stored outside India. That's something very clear. Okay. Ethical consideration, the institution you work with or the customers, you tie up with a financial institution, you have to check whether that company itself has a reputation of service, has a reputation of, so if I'm going to a new financial company for a, short-term personal loan, then I'm doing at my risk, because you don't have a reputation background of that company. That company is not known. They're just giving you a great offer, and we kind of get trapped by those great offers, free discounts, free I-15, which no one got. But that's the point. We have to be careful. And of course, regulatory compliance, banks are checking anti-money laundering. Banks have to validate KYC of the customer. So all that is part of regulatory. So it's all related to the way financial companies are going to work.
Sanjeev sir, you just spoke that RBI is mandated that the data cannot go outside India.
Yes.
There is one question from Tara ji from Mumbai. The question is whether RBI has prescribed that when the data is shared with third party auditor should certify that the data is secured.
Yes.
Any provision on data privacy?
Even third party data cannot be outside India.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, this is the reason why, if you know, just to give you an example, sometime back, MasterCard services were blocked by RBI.
Okay.
That's because MasterCard was taking the Indian customers' data outside India.
Right.
And RBI had blocked MasterCard to give its services to Indian customers.
Okay.
They complied, they modified their storage systems to keep Indian customer data within India, then they were allowed to do service again.
Right. So I'll add one more question from my side. So
Yeah, sure.
if we use this Paytm, Phone Pay, all these wallet app, the wallet that app asks you to add banks.
Yeah.
You just need to put CVV or your OTP and the
Right.
things goes.
Yes.
Is that safe?
Yes, safe.
Right. Okay.
It is safe, and also even just to give you a little example, many companies use SMS service providers to send you SMS. They don't do it themselves. And
Okay.
SMS third parties are also stored within India. They cannot go outside India to do any service. They cannot
Okay.
even use a third party tool, which
Okay.
is international. I mean, it may be international, but as long as the data, that tool is working within a computer within India, it's all right.
You mean to say that server has to be in India?
Has to be. That is mandatory. RBI is doing a separate audit called storage area uh, SAR audit. It's called storage area validation by third parties. For every institution, they have to get this audit done by a third party.
Right.
Separate audit.
Right. And so nowadays there is a question also from R. Tyagarajan, Bangalore.
Yeah.
Many sites now, even this bank site also, earlier they used to ask for your phone number, debit card for the, resetting your password.
Yeah.
Now they have incorporated the Aadhaar OTP.
Yes.
So in the okay, we have already given our Aadhaar. Is that safe, sir?
Yes, we have to trust them. There's no option we have, because Aadhaar is something which is becoming integral to our everyday living, actually. I mean,
Correct.
it may be possible that tomorrow, I cannot get petrol without my Aadhaar also.
Okay. Correct.
So we can't help it. Aadhaar is our primary identification system today. So we cannot say no to that.
Okay. Sir, from your RBI wala guideline, there is one question from Akshit Malhotra, Delhi.
Yeah.
Sir, what happens if we make a payment abroad using debit or credit card?
There is no problem in doing that as well. Only thing
I think his question is whether if he's doing on his own, whether data will be shared or what?
No, data stays here only.
Okay.
Data stays here. Even the service provider, let's say the payment gateway through which you are making the payment,
right,
the data will stay here only. What happens is, let's say, suppose I'm doing an international transaction, I'm going to an international site and then making a payment through my credit card, for example.
Okay.
There, because the site is international, I'm not using a local service provider, right? If the service provider is outside India, then I can't tell that service provider to bring my data to India, because the service provider you have chosen is outside India. Let's say, for example, if you go to, let's say, if you use PlayStation, for example, gaming stations, for example, the gaming station servers are mostly, the service providers are mostly outside India.
Okay.
And there, obviously, when you are paying on your credit card, that data is not within India because the service provider is outside India. India cannot control service provider which is outside India.
Okay.
Right. And what you need to do there in that case is that your credit card or debit card, limits and type of transaction it can do, you can set on your mobile app as well as your banking.
There is a manage option in every credit card app.
Yes, and that you should utilize properly. Because any of the international payments, you don't even get an OTP.
Correct.
Yeah. Correct. The international banking systems are actually weaker than ours, honestly.
Correct. Please continue.
Yeah. Advanced persistent threats, I was talking about 24/7, these institutions are getting attacked. So I'm not going to spend time there. Other type of attacks are, of course, viruses, keyloggers. I don't know whether you've heard of keyloggers. Keylogger is a software which you, by mistake, if you install on your mobile app or on your, computer, then what happens is that there is a hacker software which is sitting inside the computer, and everything that you type on the keyboard goes to the hacker. So which means the moment you log into your bank website, ID and password, any e-commerce ID and password, everything will start going to him or her, whatever. So we have to be very careful what we log. So if you're not sure whether you have a keylogger on your computer or mobile, you can download specific antivirus and check. Worms are there, rootkit softwares are there, Trojans are softwares which are, so if you download a software which is not verified, which is not, let's say, a good quality software, or you've not reviewed the software, then obviously we are playing with risk. So let's understand, if we make a mistake, we cannot blame the government for it, right? Or we cannot blame somebody else for it. So we have to be careful ourselves. That is not a choice we have. We have to be very careful ourselves. Okay, what is a phishing attack? You get a lot of emails these days. You've won a lottery, you've got a purchase order, your check was bounced, your income tax refund has come, or your line will get disconnected because you've not completed KYC. All that bullshit, please ignore. The hackers basically try to scare you. Okay? Scare you or give you great offers. Please do not fall in that trap. Never download anything, never click on any URL, never attend unwanted calls. When I'm saying never, it's difficult, but try to do it, you'll be safer. Because what happens is, phishing is basically, what is the fish here? The fish is you. You are the fish here, and the hacker is trying to catch you. So the short form for fish is, don't become a fish to the hacker. So if you want to become a fish, it's your choice, but please be careful. The moment phishing happens, you get an email, you click on a link, or you download some software, then God help you, because you don't know what that software is supposed to do. Please don't get into that trap at all. Okay? And that's known phishing, and phishing is the largest or the most common attack happening in the world, and the most dangerous one. This is the most dangerous attack, and everybody is using phishing. I'll give you another example. There are many companies, how the cybercrime works. In Cambodia, there are corporate companies hiring people for doing software development, for technical jobs. They hire people from China, Vietnam, and other places. And these people join this company and they go to Cambodia for work. And when they reach the company in Cambodia, those Cambodia companies are actually all cyber criminals. And when you enter the company office, that office / home is it's like a jail. People cannot go out of their office buildings. People cannot go to outside the office complex. The whole society, multiple housing societies are built like this or used like this. And if you don't work, people are beaten up because they want you to become hackers. Because each hacker earns on an average about $3,000 to $4,000 a day. And when the hacker says, I want to leave or this person says, I want to leave the company, they tell him that, sorry, you cannot leave the company because we purchased you. Please listen to my line. We purchased you. You're slave. We purchased you for $12,000 or $15,000. Now this poor guy, because he's getting a salary of $700 a month, he cannot pay $12,000 or $15,000. These are facts. So I'm just trying to tell you that because they make so much money every day, why will they want to lose this money? Hackers are making big money from us. We have to be careful. Insider threats can be three types. Malicious insider, people who are basically don't have ethics and they try to misuse their authority, they try to misuse their IT systems, they try to bypass it. Then there are negligent insiders, they make a mistake, they did not know that this some step can be wrong for their company, they did not know. And third is, of course, login ID and passwords of critical people, privileged access is shared by other with compromised insiders. Like, for example, if I if there is an administrator of a application, let's say ERP application, admin user is there, or a banking admin user is there. Now that kind of user, his login ID and password is compromised, means the insider gave it to someone for some financial gain or a threat to his family. Suppose he is being blackmailed for some reason. I will not go into those reasons. There are many these days. So he may be getting, blackmail attacks, threats or something. So he's compromising because he wants to get out of that problem of his. It could be financial problem. It could be emotional problem. It could be drug problem. It could be, let's say, liability problem. He has loans to pay and he's depressed. There's so many reasons. So compromised insiders are a big risk, which we have to, as an auditor, when we do audits, we check for such people through our, observations, their behavior, their patterns, their dressing sense, their, other type of traits. We try to check whether there are compromised insiders in the company. So that's part of an audit.
So can you please elaborate on this thing, this compromise insider? Because you just spoke that being an auditor, we have to be very cautious about it.
Yes. See, I'll give you one example. We did one audit of a company, and there was this IT person who was there. So we were talking to him. So what we saw with the IT person was that he was using, he was not a very, let's say, senior position. He was a kind of a junior IT manager with about 3, 4, 5 years experience.
So
And we saw that he was wearing very high branded shoes, high branded clothes, watches, expensive watches, and other things. So we were a little worried, and then we tried to find him. We had informal discussions with him about his family and other things through over lunchtime. He didn't come to know, of course, that we were auditing him. So later on, we of course found that he was misusing his purchasing powers with vendors.
okay.
That's one case. The other case is an example I can give you. These days, people go to, let me be honest, people go to porn sites, people go to, let's say, any other sites, and there are women. There is a joke which was going around in WhatsApp recently that if a female sends you a message first on WhatsApp, please block him. It's not a female. Please
Okay.
understand. So
Okay.
if we are making such mistakes, and there's so many, I get messages that we are giving you, work from home offer, we are giving you this. I simply block them because I know. And if there's a female on their profile, then definitely it is to be blocked. Because what
Mhm.
happens if you fall in that trap? Maybe you start a conversation and you disclose some information about your family, and then they start to misuse. They may, have a meeting online on Facebook or another, let's say, Zoom platform, and then they'll be using this. They'll record this, and then they'll tell that I am giving this recording to your family.
Okay.
So these are practical things which happen, and many things which people are, let's say, people are gullible, they fall in these traps. And so we have to be very careful.
Right.
Okay. Regulators, of course, financial sector, there are multiple regulations are there. We have RBI, we have RBI Ombudsman, we have insurance regulator, and so on. So I'm not getting into the detail here. Let's move on to the first one. RBI has a cybersecurity framework. And within the RBI cybersecurity framework, there are different verticals. There is a framework for NBFC, there's a framework for microfinance, there's a framework for AUA, KUA verification, there's a framework for prepayment system. Prepayment is nothing but wallets, payment wallet gateways. Then there are guidelines for other. So whatever fintech sector is offering, let's say, to you, each of the industry or a sub vertical has guidelines, and all the guidelines are pointing to good cybersecurity controls, strong controls, good management, all that, and audits, external audits from a third party is what RBI is saying. It's very clear. Employee training and awareness is obviously very clear. Third party risk, if you see here, third party basically means if you are having vendors working for you, you will audit them also. So that's what RBI is saying. Information sharing, right to audits, regular audits and assessment must happen. So these are RBI framework guidelines. Then there is a similar guideline for insurance sector by IRDA. It's there for their own, all the insurance companies fall under this framework, whether it is health, general, or whatever type of insurance. Then there is SEBI guideline for the stockbroking network or the companies and their brokers and sub-brokers.
So
Many of
talking
the
about
sub-brokers.
I'll interrupt you. So this cyber security is one of the thing. You just spoke about insurances. Correct. There is a question from Nikhil Doshi from Pune.
Yeah.
Do you feel cyber insurance would be a key for mitigating loss of online frauds? Can we rely on cyber insurances?
No, we cannot rely, but cyber insurance basically gives the company a protection that in case there is a cyber attack or a data loss or a data theft, then your losses will be covered by the cyber insurance. And cyber insurance is being taken by almost all large companies today. And it's and as per RBI guideline, it's a mandatory requirement that every company should take cyber insurance.
Okay. There is one more question. It quite relates to the topic we are on. It's from Vijay Kumar Dhavle, Bangalore. Sir, what is VPN? And if VPN is used, can you hide your identity?
VPN is a virtual private network.
Sir, you're not audible, sir. Something happened to your voice. So you're not audible, sir. Hello?
Your data while
you're not audible, sir. So please come again.
Can you hear me?
No, yeah. Now you are audible.
1 second, please. Are you able to hear me, please?
Yeah, sir. Yeah. You're audible, sir.
Arun?
You're audible, sir.
Hello?
So you're audible, but you're not able to hear me, sir. You need to connect your, I think, Bluetooth.
1 second.
Sure.
Hello?
Sir.
Hello?
Sir, you are audible,
Hello?
sir, but I cannot hear. You cannot hear me, sir. There is a problem with your device.
Can you hear me now?
Sir, there is a problem with your device, sir.
My 1 second. Just
sir, I think
give me a minute.
Cannot hear, sir.
Give me a second, please. 1 second. It should not be a problem, actually. I'm surprised.
Ayazji, I think he cannot hear. He can speak, but he cannot hear.
I can hear you.
Okay. Now then that's fine, sir.
Okay. I hope it's clear now.
Right.
Okay. So we'll just carry on. I think my Bluetooth device battery finished.
Correct.
I changed the device. 1 second. Okay, so your question was answered on the insurance VPN point. Yes.
No, sir. VPN is I think left. I could not hear it.
Okay. VPN stands for virtual private network, which means there is a software if you install on your computer or mobile phone. When you try to connect, first you start your VPN software, then you connect to let's say a website, or you connect to your main head office computer or your office computer. Then whatever you do on this VPN is completely secure for you. There is nobody who can steal this data compared to when you connect on an internet line.
Okay.
Yeah. And virtual private network is also required because today what happens in many companies, people are working from home.
Correct.
Yes, the working from home model is secure through VPN, and companies have made it mandatory that any employee who wants to connect to company's computer from home has to first use an authorized VPN network, which is authorized by the company with using a login ID and password.
Okay. Meaning
And with a
thereby
multi-factor
that
authentication.
VPN is very safe.
Yeah, and also they use multi-factor authentication, like there is a Defender software or another type of software where the OTP will be first generated and then you have to use that with VPN. So it's multi-factor also.
Okay. Okay. Please continue, sir. Please continue.
Yeah. So SEBI is again has their own requirements of cybersecurity framework. So each of these industries are managed by separate regulator. Then we have a new law which we talked about, the Digital Personal Data Protection Law, passed on 7th of August. So this will make sure that your personal data, I'm not saying make sure, but it will try to implement rules that we don't get fake calls. Another problem with these fake calls, is when the call centers, people are calling you, the biggest flaw in the system is that all these call center people are not using company mobile phones. They're using their personal mobile phone. Okay. That company can always claim that I did not call because the individuals' phones are registered on individual names. You understand? As a contractual, there is a gap there and they misuse the employee to the extent that personal employee number is used for calling the customers. So that's something which basically, but this law will help it basically is going to protect data misuse by companies, not individuals. So again, even data protection, this personal data law will also relate to overseas applicability. Data cannot be processed outside India. If it is processed, then what is the purpose and why? Of course, outside data can be processed as long as it's non-financial data. Financial data has to be within India. PCI is a regulator, not regulator, I would say. It's an international standard where credit card, debit card, it's only applicable for companies who store debit card and credit card data, like banks store or other some companies who are issuing debit card, credit cards, they store data. Some companies, payment gateways store data. But generally, let's say, for example, if you go to Flipkart themselves will not be storing this data. It's the payment gateway like Razorpay or PayU from which the payment happens. Whenever if you see your methodology of how it works is that after you say, okay, make payment, it goes to another page. It does not pay on the same page. So when it goes to another page means it's going to the payment gateway. So payment gateway people are storing debit card, credit card data, not the actual company. In between these two, they have only a transaction ID which can relate to the two. Unique transaction ID. PCI audit requirements, it's known as basically payment credit, payment card industry data security system. So DSS. Audit is mandatory for such companies who store this data. It's not applicable for companies who do not store this data. But this is again very critical because it's applicable in a lot of places. This audit is again separate. So each of these audits are actually separate. SEBI is separate audits, IRD is separate audits, RBI, of course, financial audits are separate, PCI audits are separate. There are so many other privacy audits will be separate. So there are huge opportunity for auditors to explore also. So PCI DSS so what they are asking that the company's network should be secure. Network is data network, strong access control, strong regular monitoring, protect cardholder data, maintain a vulnerability. Well, the system should not be vulnerable to hacker attacks. All that is part of the PCI standard. Who needs PCI? That I was just explaining. Organizations that handle credit debit card transactions or process cardholder data are applicable under this guideline. It's a standard. It's a standard where companies have to be audited mandatory. And these audits are very expensive to do. When I'm saying expensive, it means for an average company, a small, medium-sized company, the cost of this PCI DSS audit is about 8 to 10 lakh rupees. And this cannot be done by any auditor. You have to be first become a certified auditor on PCI DSS. It's an international certification required for the company who is doing audit and required by the individual who is doing this audit. It's an additional qualification you have to pick up. Applicable on online payment systems, payment processors, banks, service providers, hotels and hospitality, because many times hotels are keeping credit card, debit card data. So it all depends on, if you are storing, then fine. If you're not storing, then it's only a self-assessment. It's not an external audit. What is common for personal data? Purpose. Organization have to define what to collect and for what purpose. They have to minimize the data. By minimization, it means, suppose you don't need Aadhaar data, right? So even if you're still collecting Aadhaar, but you don't need Aadhaar, it's a waste of data. No? You're increasing your risk. So organization should only collect that KYC information that is relevant to the customer or relevant for the service, not collect unwanted data. So that's a rule of the minimization. Consent, individuals have to explicit, informed and consent taken. So tick mark has to be done by every individual that this is allowed by me. So if they don't take explicit consent, it's a problem of the organization. The organization has to improve their system. Transparency has to be there. Organizations have to provide clear information to individual, how the data will be processed and how it will be used and stored and shared with third party if it is going to be shared. User has a right. Just to give you an example, in Facebook, there is a right to forget. I do not know whether they've started now. Right to forget means if you choose that right to forget option, which means every data from the history of Facebook, means the day you logged in first time. Suppose your Facebook account is 8 years old. From the 8 years on starting point, they have to delete everything related to you. If you say, please forget me, that option, I do not know whether this is enabled, but this was something in the pipeline. Okay, security measures, we have to put controls, we have to put, unauthorized alteration should not happen, unauthorized disclosure of data should not happen. And also data breach. If data is stolen, if the company doesn't come to know, how will they notify anybody? Okay, so they have to have mechanisms to keep checking whether data is flowing out of the company from or to unauthorized places or to unauthorized individuals. There are mechanisms which have to be implemented in place, things like data leakage prevention tools, security operations center monitoring, security management, log monitoring system, audit trails, all those have to be part of this program. It's a pretty detailed, auditors will understand what I'm talking about. So all that is very important. So data breach notification can only happen if you come to know. If you don't come to know, obviously there's a problem. Okay. What are the IT security controls? So I'm just going to not take too much time, because obviously we are in the last 5-10 minutes. Defense in depth. Security is required right from the bottom. at the center, it has to start data security. Next line, vulnerability security. Then physical security. Physical security is the rooms and computers, etc. Then intrusion detection prevention systems, audit and log monitoring, security policies and procedures. So, and on the other side, you need operating system hardening, Windows hardening. Hardening basically means put the configuration strong. Let's say, for example, mobile phone when you use, when we are saying remove the permissions, what we are doing, we are hardening our system. Okay, we can harden. Please go to your security option in the phone. Let's say I'll give you just a simple example. In my mobile phone, I don't have a pin or a lock on my phone. Okay, so you can just swipe and open my phone. But inside the phone, I don't disclose anything. No password is saved. No, I disallow all notifications. I disallow all sync, automatic sync, background sync, I disallow. So I do all those protections internal to the system so that my data is not being stolen where is not required. Okay, so all that is, and last of course is defenses that is third-party certification like ISO 27001, ISO 9001, ISO 2031000. So there's so many certifications which companies can take, which means third-party auditors certify the security, data security and management of the company. Okay, so we have to security by design. What does it mean? We have to implement segregation of duties, which is maker checker. Need to use security. Give it to people only who need it, not to everybody. Data subject, record consent, opt out, forget timestamps. What is a timestamp? It's a date. Banking system, you very well know. Every, let's say, transaction in the bank has who created this, his ID will be there, and a timestamp means what time and date it was created, that will go with the data. So that is known as timestamp. It's like an audit trail for our auditors. PII information means personal information. Anonymize, encrypt. Anonymization means my name is Sanjeev, but inside if a programmer, he will not see Sanjeev, he will see S only, and rest of it is modified. He cannot see my full name. So that's what we are talking about, anonymization, hiding the names, hiding, anonymizing, encryption. Encryption, of course, means make it non-readable. Communication should be secure. SSL. On the website on top, you see HTTPS. On the website, HTTPS, S means SSL layer, secure socket layer. So wherever you see HTTPS, it's a secure site. If you don't see HTTPS on top, never do any transaction with that company. Strong password policy, we know that. So we have to reduce access of IT network. So whenever we are implementing a system, we must make sure that IT people can do their job, but there should be somebody monitoring the IT people also. So we have to make a mechanism in such a way that somebody is monitoring even the IT people, because IT people are the biggest risk because they have so much access to data, like the UCO Bank case, I think, because they had access to software, they had access to knowledge of the banking, and they could misuse. Enable audit trails, logs, data breach logs. That's very important. DLP, you can implement data leak prevention, breach notification. There are many tools. Today, if you try to, if I try to list tools for security, there are at least about 300-400 type of tools available for different areas. And from that, you have to choose what is relevant to you. And it's an expensive proposition. It's not cheap today. It's not at all, easy to manage information security or cyber security for companies. It's a big challenge. This is, I'm just skipping this slide. So it's what we call whenever a new system is being working. First, what the computer does is it identifies you through your login ID. Okay. Is known as identification process. In the second step, it verifies, authenticates you by a password. Okay, ID is the first step, is identification of the user by login ID. Authentication is through password or multi-factor authentication or biometric or fingerprint or whatever. Banks में अपने, you must have seen at branches, login ID password के बाद, in addition they have to put their fingerprint next to their computer, which is a multi-factor biometric method. Authentication is second step. Once the user is identified and authenticated, then authorization means he is given access to his data, to the role he has to play. He cannot be given access to everything. So that is what we are trying to say. So the step of reaching to your data is IAA. That's the 3 stages of methodology of reaching your data: identification, authentication, authorization. And the sequence has to be this. It cannot be any other way. It cannot be authorization comes first. No, it is this way only. In any of the examples, any technology you use, any application, any hardware, any software, methodology is strictly this same flow. Okay, access controls have to be role-based. Obviously, if a clerk is required only to do transactions, he cannot approve. Segregation of duties, no one person has a control over entire process. Maker, checker will always be there. Logs is there, encryption is there, physical security, CCTV monitoring, all that part of data security. Vendor and third party, external entities. Like third parties cannot be allowed inside the financial systems of the company, or if they are allowed, then strict controls are there as to what they. Training is, of course, very critical for everyone involved in this entire data chain. Data protection is encryption is another way. Encryption basically means your end-to-end data is secure and you never allow any misuse. Vulnerability assessment is an exercise which we do.
Sir, can I ask you a question, sir?
Yeah, please.
Sir, you just spoke out encryption.
Yeah.
We have heard about it that there are software which do encryption. Sir, we being a chartered accountant, when we deliver a mail or something and we don't want anybody else to see it, how can this feature be helpful to we people?
See, you can, you already know every chartered accountants, one good part about chartered accountants is they're all using digital signatures to sign audit reports, right?
Right.
So digital signature itself is a way of using multi-stage encryption methodology. Okay.
Okay.
So you can even use it for signing your emails, or in the email system, whether you use Gmail or whether you use your corporate email ID, there is a mechanism to put your emails under encryption. It's known as, there is a feature there, you have to go into security settings and you can say encryption on. But if you want to do it for all the emails, it can do.
Okay.
It's possible and it's very simple. It's not at all complex.
Right.
You just have to go and do a tick mark. So once you do enable, it will even go and ask you for every email, do you want to encrypt? Suppose there's an ordinary mail you are sending and it's not confidential data, for example, and you don't worry about it. So you can always say skip the encryption.
Okay. On the recipient, does he need any another
No, he doesn't, because
that's all.
No, he doesn't need, because what happens in this encryption technology is that the mechanism of how it was encrypted goes with the email to the recipient.
Right.
And that is hidden to the recipient. It's not visible.
Okay.
But it is internal to the email. It is attached to the email, you can say.
Okay.
Though it's not a foolproof method, it can be hacked. But it brings about 90% safety and security of data.
Right.
Unless you are, unless you are sending and the actual person recipient is a hacker.
Okay.
Then there is a problem. But generally is safe, is mostly safe.
Right.
And it's free. It's not something you have to pay for.
Okay.
So vulnerability assessment is basically, as an ethical hacker, if you want to find problems in your system, how will you know? So you become there are people who are ethical hackers who are vulnerability assessment technical experts who do, they run tools and they try to hack your website, they try to hack your application system, they try to, guess your password, they try to misuse your financial transaction system, manipulate that. All that is known as vulnerability assessment. So different type of vulnerability assessment can be done for companies to find out if the system is weak. And if the system is weak, before a hacker can attack, you can fix the problem. That's the point of vulnerability assessment. It is primarily a technical assessment. Our normal auditors cannot do this assessment. You need specialists, you need special tools, you need special knowledge to do this activity. But this is necessary for entire financial sector. It is necessary for actually all the companies today who are doing any online business. Like I said, financial firms are 300 times more likely to experience the attack. Attack is 24/7. Please understand, banking, financial systems, 24/7, they are being attacked. If there is a vulnerability, somebody will misuse, for sure. Insider threat mitigation, of course, you have to have a knowledge, regular audits, you have to have a whistleblower policy, employees observe it, report it. If an employee sees another employee doing something wrong with IT, he should inform. So all those things are part of mitigation. Prevent, detect, investigate. Prevention is the first step. Detection is the next step. If you find a problem, please investigate, take actions. That's the approach to fixing the risks. Data breach response, there's a lot of things. I'll skip this slide. Employee awareness, education and awareness. Network segmentation is another point. On the network segmentation, servers are kept separate from data servers. Web servers are, when you visit a website, for example, you go to railways website and you try to book a railways ticket, or you go to an airline website, please understand the page that you're seeing on the website is on a different server, and the data is being stored on another server, which is on a different network, which means, the IP address concept, right? The IP address is different of the database, and IP address of the servers is kept different, so that the directly nobody can reach the data. That's known as segmentation concept. I'll not go into technical details. This can be done, and this is always done in a good security design, network security design. Okay, security isolation has to be done, compliance, and this is all necessary. I'll not get into this. Still a lot actually this slide requires. One point that I'll just cover in a minute is there is a concept of multi-party security. What is multi-party? Multi-party means there is one cloud which you are using for, let's say, hosting your email system, for example. Now that cloud is being used by many other customers also, right? So multi-party means you have to make sure that your data on the cloud is not getting mixed with other customers' data. So that is something, kind of a security review can be done. You can discuss with cloud, service providers, how they are giving you the service, how they are ensuring, that there is a segregation of areas from one customer to another, because you are sharing the resources, you're sharing the hardware, you're sharing the software, you're sharing the network. So that's why it's a concept of multi-tenant. Its cloud is always multi-tenant. For example, AWS, Amazon Web Services, is giving services to millions of customers today. They have to ensure that each customer is unique. No one customer data can mix with the other customer. So that kind of multi-tenancy you have to look at. Payment gateways, I'll not get into this point, again requires much explanation. So I think I'll finish my slide here. Thanks for your time. If you have more questions, you're welcome to ask.
So I'm just looking onto the question if I have some.
Yeah, let me know.
Sir, there is one Handira Kumar Dharwara from Hyderabad. How do an auditor ensure PCI DSS with the cloud service provider of client?
That's fairly simple. If let's say suppose we go to AWS and suppose you are taking services for Amazon web services. If you go to Amazon website, there is a link called compliance. Okay. On the compliance page, they will publish that PCI DSS certificate was done last on this date. All the certifications that they have listed on the website. So you can verify. And if there are companies who are, let's say it's not like Amazon or Microsoft, there are smaller companies, you please ask them for VAPT reports, vulnerability assessment reports on an annual basis, ask them their ISO certifications, ask them their PCI DSS certifications. They have to provide you separately as a compliance. Once a year compliance you must take from them.
Okay, so there is one more question.
Yeah.
And that while browsing, this is from Keyur Champak Lal Suthar, Gandhinagar. While browsing their incognito mode, please elaborate whether data is being saved or in that mode too?
No, data is not saved on your computer. That's all.
Okay.
Data is saved with your service provider, definitely. Let's say if you're using Airtel broadband connection.
Correct.
Airtel will definitely store your data because it's a legal requirement to keep every single activity data for 1 year by service provider. So they have to save it. So data is not hidden from them. Data is only hidden on your computer.
Okay.
It's not saved on your computer.
There is one more question, and that will be question with every chartered accountant. It is from Samir Datta, Gurgaon. Are normal antivirus like Norton or McAfee good enough for the computer and mobile phones?
Yes, there are many antiviruses, Norton, and today we have Quick Heal. We have so many antivirus products. Most of them are good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what do you suggest is the first line of defense when we are entering a chartered accountant's office?
Sorry, can you ask the question again?
Yeah, in terms of technology and the cyber attack, what do you think is the first line of defense for a chartered accountant?
First line of defense.
It's a bit tricky question.
No, I know. See, first line of defense. Let me put it this way. Suppose you have cash in your house, right?
Correct.
And you have cash and it is kept in a strong vault and it is locked and it has a biometric attached to it, for example. And then if your main data is secure, you can keep your windows and doors open, nothing will happen.
Okay.
So first protection is keep your data secure, proper access control from your employees also. I'm specifically saying here because what happens is when I've seen this as a chartered accountant when they give services to customers. For example, Tally. Now Tally keeps, because they're giving services to customer for last 10 years or 7 years or 5 years. Last 5 years or 7 years data of the customer is lying on that Tally. The employees should not be able to access the audited financial reports of the earlier data. They should not be able to modify. They may be able to view, but they should not be able to modify. So that kind of security controls you should put on your systems. So don't allow your employees to access unwanted data of your customers. They should only be allowed to use that current data, not the past data. Because past data, if it gets manipulated, it can be trouble.
So there is one question from Mr. C. Hardeep Singhal. He's asking any good software that take incremental backup automatically.
Yeah, there are some softwares available which can do incremental backup. Of course, if you have
first you need to elaborate what is incremental backup.
Incremental backup is basically when let's say you do backup today of your data and tomorrow you do backup again. It will only add the backup which was the work which was done tomorrow. Only that backup gets added to the backup.
Okay.
That's the incremental concept. And there are softwares available. Windows itself has a scheduling software. If you go to backup, if you look at Windows, there's a backup schedule option. You can use incremental by default from Windows, or if you're using G Drive or OneDrive of Microsoft, even that kind of sync does a continuous sync of your data.
Okay.
Of course, there are specialized software also available for incremental backup. Some of them are free, some of them are paid.
Right. There is one question, sir. In between your presentation, you spoke that we need to, keep different password for every platform or banking or for our personal emails.
Yes.
The question is, how do we remember so many passwords?
I agree. Let me
It is
give
from
me.
Mr. Amit.
Yes.
He has not written where from.
It doesn't matter. It does not matter. Just a minute. I will just.
Shall we need to wrap up it?
Yeah. Just 1 minute I'll take.
Yeah.
There is a software which I use.
Okay.
It's called KeePass. KEEPASS. If you see this software, it's opened on my screen. Can you see KeePass here?
Okay, KeePass. Okay.
Yeah, this is a free software.
Okay.
Very good software. So what I do is I have different headings to keep my data. I can keep my passwords under different categories: general passwords, Windows passwords. So I have not put in different categories. I'm just using one category.
Okay.
So if you can see, I have 186 passwords, IDs and passwords.
Basically, you are just having a faith on one people. If he loses your data, then it is okay.
Yeah. If this password which I keep is obviously secure.
Okay.
To log into this tool, I have to use one password. And so discipline you have to follow is all the new places you need login ID, password, you keep adding into this database. And it's a small database, very small. And this tool is also very small. So you can even carry, your passwords on your notebook, keep it on your Gmail drive. It uses, let me just show you. I'll just show you where it is. I'll finish by last option. I'll show you. See, if you see, I have a folder here. And this file, this is the file, password file.
Okay.
It's just 47 kilobyte.
Okay.
It's a very small file. It's a free software and very reliable software. It's virus proof and it's no malware there.
Okay.
Tried and tested. I've been using it for many years.
Okay.
So you can use it for saving all the data rather than using Excel sheets or other methods.
Correct, sir. Okay, sir. I extend our sincere thanks and grateful to our esteemed speaker, both you, sir, Sanjeev Arora ji, and our earlier speaker, Udit Agarwal ji, for sharing their expertise and illuminating the profound changes or technology in the driving financial landscape. We also appreciate the dedicated technical team who ensured this event as a success. I also thank all the attendees for lively participation that contributed to stimulating learning environment. I am confident, sir, from your and Udit ji's deliberation. I know many people will change their, adat. How to save password, how to use password, encryption, VPN, everything, permissions on mobile. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you very much, and all the best to everyone.
Thanks to all attendees.
We hope to meet again.
Sure, sir. Sure. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Arun, and thank you everybody for joining.
Right, sir. Right. Thanks everybody for joining. Okay, sir. Bye, sir.